Chapter 892. The night was like water. The soldiers were busy, but no one realized that the sky above them was even darker, as if dark clouds were pressing down on them. Suddenly, a strong wind blew and sand filled the sky. The wind blew so hard that people couldn't open their eyes. People were thrown off their feet and their horses were thrown off their feet. Screams rang out everywhere. What happened? Number one's eyes widened. The wind and sand did not affect his vision at all. This wind was too strange. There must be something wrong with this abnormal situation. Suddenly, a terrifying pressure came from above his head. Number one abruptly raised his head and saw a scene that made his spirit tremble. A giant snake with 8 heads descended from the sky. There were 2 people standing on the giant snake. One of them was a woman, and the other was a child. His heart skipped a beat. He knew that the person who came did not come with good intentions. He shouted, "Who are you?" The other party didn't answer him, and didn't even look at him, which made him angry and anxious. Number one made a prompt decision and ordered, "Attack." Bang bang bang. Tens of thousands of guns rang out in unison, and clusters of flames blossomed from the muzzles of the guns. The bullets were like raindrops that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Petty tricks. The 100-change-star sovereign said with disdain. Roar. As soon as he finished speaking, the 8 heads of Yamada no Orochi opened their mouths and roared at the same time. The powerful shock wave caused the bullets to stop abruptly and fall to the ground. Yamada no Orochi landed on the ground with a loud bang, crushing several large machines into pieces. Many people who were unable to dodge in time were also crushed into minced meat. Number one's expression changed and his eyelids twitched. The enemy was too powerful, beyond his imagination. Orochi. He finally remembered what this monster was. Wasn't this the Yamada no Orochi that was mentioned in the information collected some time ago? Why had this monster come to Huaxia and even come to the Imperial City? He was not an idiot, and immediately thought of that dragon's roar. Could it be that it had also come for this? Who were the 2 people standing on the back of Yamada no Orochi? He stared at the child without blinking. Suddenly, a stroke of inspiration struck him and he immediately guessed who it was. He could not help but exclaim, "100-change-star sovereign." The 100-faces star sovereign turned out to be a child, just like the rumors said. The other one must be a pure-blooded child. The government was well aware of the island nation's arrival in China, so it was not difficult to guess Junko's identity. Immediately, number one felt the pressure of Mount Tai bearing down on him. Facing these masters, how could he still have his usual confidence? However, the responsibility on his shoulders did not allow him to retreat. Instead, he took a step forward and shouted in a bluff, "Why aren't you leaving? This is not a place where you should be." The 100-changes-star sovereign did not even look at him. Her gaze was fixed on the ground of the Imperial City that had already been excavated. Seeing that number one was still making a racket, 100-faces Star Lord swept his sword-like eyebrows and said unhappily, "Make him shut up." After saying that, he lightly landed on the ground with Junko, and Orochi turned around and attacked number one. The body of the Yamada no Orochi was huge and incomparably ferocious. When it opened its bloody mouth, a gust of fishy wind blew over. Number one sensed danger and retreated. With a flick of his wrist, a black iron whip flew out. This iron whip was thick and black, and each section had barbs shining with cold light. As long as one was hit by the iron whip, it would not end well. However, the Yamada no Orochi ignored it and went straight in. Its huge tail swept and collided with the iron whip, causing sparks to fly everywhere. The iron whip did not hurt it at all. It was all blocked by the scales on its body. Instead, number one was pushed back by a strong force. The other soldiers did not retreat and kept pulling the trigger. Some even took out their rocket launchers and aimed at the Yamata no Orochi. Whoosh! With a sharp sound, the rocket flew out and hit the Yamata no Orochi. After a huge explosion, the ground was full of holes, but the Yamata no Orochi was unharmed. However, this explosion undoubtedly angered the Yamata no Orochi. It looked up to the sky and roared like a killing machine. Using both its head and tail, it swept towards the people with a biting cold wind. These soldiers did not have the skills of number one. Immediately, they were thrown off their feet and screams could be heard everywhere. Many people were sent flying and fell to the ground dead. Some were even directly cut in half at the waist. It was extremely miserable. For a moment, the imperial city became like a battlefield. The crazy Yamata no Orochi was extremely powerful. It was not something they could resist at all. Even if they had guns and cannons, it was too late to use them. Number one looked at this scene with his heart bleeding. It was not because of the death of these soldiers, but because of the mission. With this group of people interfering, wouldn't his mission be ruined? He even made a military order in front of the chief. Now, it seemed like a joke. Whoosh! A ferocious mouth attacked number one. Number one hurriedly retreated, barely dodging the attack. He swung the iron whip in his hand at the palace wall, wrapping it around a protrusion on the wall. With a leap, he flew out of the palace along with the iron whip. Roar! Yamata no Orochi would not let him go. It twisted its huge body and directly crushed the wall. This was the center of the imperial city and there were many palaces. Therefore, wherever Yamata no Orochi passed, the surrounding buildings were swept down and turned into ruins. This scene was too big, especially in the quiet night. It had already alarmed the people in the capital. Many people quickly gathered here, wanting to see what was going on. After all, the military police had cordoned off this area during the day, which had aroused the curiosity of many people. However, the government reacted even faster. After all, they had been paying attention to the imperial city. After hearing the commotion in the imperial city, a large number of reinforcements immediately rushed over. When they rushed into the palace gate, they happened to see Yamata no Orochi catching up to number one. Its huge tail directly broke number one's iron whip and ruthlessly lashed at number one's body. Number one was in the martial king realm. However, he was still crushed in front of Yamata no Orochi. Number one knew that he could not avoid it. He hurriedly channeled his power to protect the vital parts of his body and growled. Bang! Number one's body trembled violently. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. It was clear in the dark night. He flew far away and smashed a big hole in the wall. Yamata no Orochi wanted to chase after him, but the reinforcements finally made their move. Bang! 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 Gunshots rang out, splashing sparks on Yamata no Orochi's body. Number one climbed up from the ruins of the drill bit. He did not care about the dust on his body and looked back in a sorry state. Yamata no Orochi was being sniped by powerful firepower and could not chase after him for the time being. However, there was no doubt that these guns could do nothing to it. People kept dying under Yamata no Orochi's attacks. They died miserable deaths. This magnificent imperial city had become a hellish battlefield. Run! A thought appeared in number one's mind. Then, he fled without looking back. This mission was a complete failure. No matter how the chief punished him, it was more important to save his life first. When he saw the chief was pacing back and forth in the room with a gloomy face. Seeing number one, the chief was angry and questioned, "Why did you come back? What's the situation over there?" Number one lowered his head in shame and said, "Chief, please punish me. The enemy is too strong. We can't stop them at all." Strong? Who are they? The chief obviously did not have the first line of information. Multiform Star Lord, Yamada no Orochi, and Junko from the island nation's Imperial Preceptor's residence. It's them. Number one's expression changed. They have guts. How dare they come to the capital to cause trouble? Number one said dejectedly, they came prepared. I'm afraid they were attracted by the dragon's roar. What? The chief exclaimed, they want to get their hands on the dragon too. Definitely. Otherwise, they would not have made such a big fuss and would not have gone to the imperial city. The chief was silent. Number one's words made sense. The enemy's target was so clear. They must have come for the dragon. Can't our people stop them at all? Number one shook his head dejectedly. We can't stop them. They are too strong. A bunch of good-for-nothings. You usually brag about how strong you are. Why can't you do it at the critical moment? The chief was flustered. Multiform Star Lord is too strong. Yamada no Orochi's cultivation is also very high. This is also an important place in the capital. We don't dare to use weapons that are too strong. Number one explained. If they fought in the capital and used powerful weapons, it would definitely attract the attention of the whole country and even the whole world. The influence would be very bad. Number one was just a martial artist. He did not dare to make such a decision. At this juncture, what's the point of thinking about that? Don't we still have the mechas? Send the mechas. Approve the use of other weapons of mass destruction. The dragon is the key. We must not let them beat us to it. Number one looked at the chief in shock. This order was not normal. Pulling one part of it would affect the whole situation. This time, it was really going to blow up. It might get out of hand. Yes. Number one suppressed the fear in his heart. This was a battle of life and death. If they lost, the chief's leadership position in the country would be shaken. It might even give the other party an excuse. Thus, they could not afford to lose. What about Tang Jing and the rest? Aren't they archenemies with Multiform Star Lord? Tell them this news. They probably won't sit back and do nothing. The chief pondered for a while and ordered. What if they want to get their hands on the dragon too? Humph, stupid. Is it easier to deal with Tang Jing or Multiform Star Lord? The chief scolded. Of course it's Tang Jing. Then let's not worry about it. Let's deal with Multiform Star Lord first. Even if Tang Jing really wants to get his hands on the dragon, we can think of a countermeasure. The most important thing now is to settle this matter. The chief said earnestly. Yes, I understand. Bring number 3 along too. There's no harm in having more people. Then what about you, chief? Won't there be no one to protect you? What is this place? Would normal people dare to come here? Yes, sir. Number 1 called number 3 and left together. He also informed Tang Jing that Multiform Star Lord and Orochi were in the Imperial City. Tang Jing already knew what was going on in the Imperial City, but he didn't know what was going on. But after receiving the notice from number 1, he was really surprised. He didn't expect Multiform Star Lord to be so unscrupulous and come to the Imperial City to make a scene. We've searched high and low for it, only to find it by chance. We've spent so much effort to find Junko and the others. I didn't expect them to take the initiative to offer themselves. I'm afraid they're here for the 5-clawed golden dragon. Chapter 893. Tang Jing informed Tian Chanzi and brought Empyrean Fairy and Huang Xiang to the Imperial City. Lan Yu stayed behind to protect everyone. Empyrean Fairy was very interested when she heard that Changeable Star Lord had appeared again. The 3 of them rushed to the Imperial City at lightning speed, only to find that the Imperial City was surrounded by soldiers. Sounds of fierce fighting could be heard from the crowd. Let's go in from the sky. Tang Jing flew on his sword and brought Huang Xiang into the imperial city silently. While they were still in the air, they could clearly see the situation below. There were countless casualties, and many palaces in the imperial city had been destroyed. Yamada no Orochi was still twisting its huge body, and there was no place for it to fight back. Number 1 and Number 3 were still resisting with all their might. Suddenly, Orochi bit Number 3's arm. Number 3 screamed and retreated quickly. However, Orochi was faster. 2 fangs pierced through his chest and into his heart. Number 3. Number 1 yelled in agony, but he couldn't do it alone. There was nothing he could do. Orochi attacked Number 1 again. Suddenly, there was a roar above their heads. Mechas! Tang Zheng was shocked when he saw 2 huge creatures flying toward him. It seemed that the dragon group's mechas weren't all destroyed. The officials still kept the mechas. Now, they came in handy. Why didn't you come earlier? Number 1 pounded the ground. Number 3's death was a big blow to him. 2 mechas descended from the sky with a ferocious aura. Bang! The mecha swept out with its leg and accurately struck Yamada no Orochi. Roar! Yamada no Orochi let out a painful roar and was sent flying. It landed on a palace and smashed a huge hole in it. The 2 mechas landed and didn't stop. They tiptoed and rushed toward Orochi as if they were weightless. One of the mechas grabbed onto one of Orochi's heads and let out a low growl. Poof! The head was torn off and blood flowed out. The mecha stomped its feet and the head turned into a meat patty. Ao ao ao. Yamada no Orochi was enraged. It let out a heart-wrenching roar as it twisted its body and swept its giant tail towards the mecha. The mecha chose to meet force with force. Its iron fist struck out and collided with the giant tail. Both sides retreated at the same time. However, the distance the mecha retreated was obviously much further. The other mech did not sit back and watch. Its arm quickly transformed, revealing a small missile. Whoosh! The missile left a long trail of flames behind it as it struck Orochi. Boom! With a loud explosion, sparks flew in all directions. A piece of Yamada no Orochi's scales fell off, revealing its bloody flesh. Tang Zheng watched this scene in awe and muttered to himself, the mecha's combat power has improved tremendously compared to before. It seemed that after the destruction of the dragon group, the country did not give up on the research of mecha. It was just that this time, there were no super soldiers. Did the country continue this project? Yamada no Orochi cried out incessantly. It was caught off guard. This was the first time it had encountered such a technological product. I'll tear you apart. With a loud roar, it pounced towards one of the mecha. The other mecha hurriedly came to its aid. The 3 of them tangled together, exchanging blows back and forth. However, the buildings in the imperial city suffered. When faced with such a terrifying giant, the majestic buildings were like fragile window paper that could not withstand the wind. They would break with a single poke and shatter with a single strike. Tang Jing did not go down to help. Instead, he flew straight towards the center of the imperial city. He had to find 100 Faces. Finally, he saw 100 Faces walking back and forth on the ground. This was where the eye of the formation was located. However, the ground had been dug out with countless holes of various sizes. It was a complete mess. He could not immediately see through the formation. I finally understand. So it's a formation. Even if those fools dug all the way to the center of the ground, they wouldn't be able to find a dragon. Instead, they destroyed the prototype of the formation. It took me so long to find a clue. 100 Faces Star-Lord said excitedly. Junko was also ecstatic. Master, will we be able to see the dragon? Of course. How could a small formation not be able to stump us? 100 Faces was brimming with confidence. Just as he was about to cast a spell to break the formation, he suddenly raised his head and looked at the night sky. 3 people appeared in the night sky. It's you again. Why are you still here? 100 Faces roared. His delicate face revealed a fierce expression. 100 Faces, you dare to come back after running away. You really are not afraid of death. Tang Jing coldly snorted. Humph, who said I ran away? Why would I, the famous 100 Change Star Lord, run away from a little kid like you? 100 Change Star Lord retorted, unable to maintain his dignity. Tang Jing sneered. Huh, is that so? Then don't run away this time. Who said I was running away? 100 Faces was complacent. As long as he succeeded in slaying the dragon and obtained the secret of the dragon clan, he was confident that he would not be afraid even if he faced the Empyrean fairy. If I'm not wrong, you're here for the dragon. Tang Jing probed. You also know about the dragon. 100 Faces' pupils shrank. He looked at Tang Jing with suspicion. Tang Jing smiled mysteriously. He did not comment and asked, why do you want to find the dragon? What does it have to do with you? Then don't even think about finding it. Tang Jing and the other 2 immediately descended from the sky and landed not far away from the 100 Transformation Star Lord. They stared at the 2 of them without blinking. Tang Jing's gaze subconsciously fell on Junko. His eyes lit up as he said, you really broke through to the master stage. Back then, Junko's cultivation was only at the early stage of the Xiantian realm. She was still thousands of miles away from the master stage. But now, she had actually crossed that hurdle. There was no doubt that all of this was due to 100 Faces. When enemies met, their eyes would turn red. Junko looked at Tang Jing with such a feeling. Her eyes were red and she wanted nothing more than to kill him with her sword. The Imperial Preceptor's residence was destroyed because of Tang Jing. It was also because of Tang Jing that she recognized 100 Faces as her master and her cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. Although fortune and misfortune came hand in hand, her hatred for Tang Jing had never decreased. Junko looked at Tang Jing and said hatefully, Tang Jing, one day I will kill you with my own hands. Tang Jing jokingly said, you're acknowledging a thief as your father. Most of the people in the Imperial Preceptor's residence died in the hands of 100 Faces. Yet, you're pledging allegiance to him. Junko's expression greatly changed. This was an eternal scar in her heart. She saw with her own eyes that 100 Faces killed the people in the Imperial Preceptor's residence. Moreover, the Imperial Preceptor's death in the mouth of Yamada no Orochi was also tacitly approved by 100 Faces. Therefore, in truth, the 100 Faces Star-Lord was her enemy. Island nation people always liked to acknowledge a thief as their father. For example, when the island nation was defeated by the Atlantic Empire, they even ate 2 atomic bombs and suffered heavy casualties. But after the war, the island nation begged for mercy from the Atlantic Empire. They even allowed the Atlantic Empire to station troops in their country. This was simply a loss of power and humiliation. But in the eyes of the island nation people, they were never tired of it and had a good impression of the Atlantic Empire. One had to say that this was a cheap thing. Junko was no exception. She had inherited her own ethnic characteristics. Nonsense. Our island nation will rise under the guidance of Master. We will complete the mission that we failed to complete in the past. Our strong ships and sharp cannons, our iron hooves will step on the land of Huaxia. Junko's veins were bulging as she shouted herself hoarse. Tang Zhang's eyelids twitched as he sternly said, you still want to kill our Huaxia. Since that's the case, then I can't let you live. With Master here, do you think you can kill me? Junko hid behind 100 Face Star-Lord and said fearlessly. In her mind, 100 Faces was an invincible and omnipotent person. She had never seen the power of the Empyrean fairy, so she was so fearless. 100 Faces looked at them and said, "I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I will deal with you after I find the dragon." He hurriedly circulated his power and was about to open the array. "Stop!" Tang Jing shouted. How could he let him do as he wished? He drew his bow and shot the shooting sun arrow. 100 Faces had seen the power of the shooting sun arrow and did not dare to underestimate it. He pointed his finger and the debris on the ground flew up and condensed into a long spear to meet the shooting sun arrow. Pang! With a loud explosion, the long spear was destroyed and the shooting sun arrow's attack was greatly reduced. Tang Zheng had already used this opportunity to appear in front of 100 Faces. He did not have time to activate the array. Go to hell. When the 100-form star sovereign saw this, he grabbed at the void with both hands. The stone slabs on the ground shook violently and then broke free from the ground. They flew up and turned into fine powder. In an instant, the powder changed shape and formed a giant palm. The gigantic palm descended from the sky, causing Tang Jing to immediately raise the War Soul Sword, causing the sword light to shine brightly. With a low roar, he prepared to slash at the 100 Transformation Star Lord, but he saw a black shadow take a step forward and rush into the sky. Pang! The giant palm exploded and sand filled the sky. A figure staggered and fell to the ground. It was like a heavy artillery shell hitting the ground. Dust filled the sky and the ground cracked inch by inch. It was a spectacular sight. Huang Xiang. He had actually made a move before the Empyrean fairy. Huang Xiang's thinking was simple. As long as Tang Jing was threatened, he would rush forward without hesitation. Moreover, his strength was equivalent to a 9th-grade golden core and he had the invincible Vajra body. He had actually withstood the power of the palm. The 100 Transformation Star Lord cried out in alarm as he looked at Huang Xiang in astonishment. Huang Xiang gave off a sinister aura like that of a ghost and was extremely powerful. Puppet. Tang Jing, you actually nurtured a puppet expert. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign saw through Huang Xiang's background with a single glance. Junko looked at Huang Xiang in shock. With her eyes, she could see that this person's strength was far above her own. Moreover, he was Tang Zhang's puppet. She could not help but feel a little apprehensive. Just how many mysterious methods did he have? You have quite a lot of tricks up your sleeve. You surprised me, but that's all. 100 Faces snorted and his hands changed shape. Instantly, the aura of the entire area changed, and the ground started to shake. Tang Jing, dodge! Empyrean Fairy suddenly shouted and stood in front of Tang Jing to protect him. Boom! A formless chi covered the sky and covered the earth, bombarding in front of Tang Jing, causing him to stagger backwards. If not for the 9 Heavens mystical maiden protecting him, he would have suffered quite a bit. He was still too weak against 100 Faces. Chapter 894. Seeing that Xian Nv of the 9 Heavens had summoned the painting of mountains and rivers of the gods of earth and Vale, Celestial Lord of the 100 Faces also summoned the heavenly water banner. The banner flickered and swept towards Xian Nv of the 9 Heavens. The two had fought before and were relatively familiar with each other's routines and methods. They understood that this was going to be a long battle. Their cultivation levels were similar, but the mountain river map was obviously more powerful than the sky water banner, so the Empyrean Fairy had the upper hand from the beginning. Tang Jing turned his eyes and stared at the almost sluggish Junko. She didn't expect that Tang Jing would have such a powerful helper, and it was even a woman. She couldn't help but imagine how wonderful it would be if she was as powerful as the Empyrean Fairy. But she immediately realized how bad her situation was because Tang Zhang's eyes had locked onto her. She felt the danger and subconsciously retreated, wanting to hide in the darkness. How could Tang Jing let her have her way? With a light tap of his foot, he shot out like an arrow. War Spirit slashed out and she quickly used her sword to resist, but how could her swordsmanship be compared with Tang Zheng's? She was only at the first level of the supreme power realm, which was absolutely powerful for ordinary people, but not for Tang Zheng. Clang! The two swords collided. With just one sword, she felt her arm tremble violently and her palm go numb. The long sword almost flew out of her hand. Seeing Tang Zheng thrusting his sword again, this time even more powerful, she couldn't resist at all. She quickly used ninjutsu. Whoosh! The War Soul sword missed and slashed into the ground, creating a huge crack. Where is she? Tang Zheng frowned and looked around, but there was no sign of her. He suddenly remembered the ninjutsu in the Imperial Preceptor's residence. There was no doubt that she had used ninjutsu, and her level was more powerful than the Imperial Preceptor's. It's just a ninjutsu, an insignificant skill. Tang Zheng roared as he activated Battle Soul and slashed out 81 times in the air. In an instant, the surrounding area of several tens of meters was enveloped by sword cheese. The ground was slashed into pieces by the sword cheese, and even the air seemed to have been torn into pieces. Only the multiform Starlord and the Empyrean Fairy were unaffected. Their battle was extremely intense. Everywhere they passed, it was as if a hurricane had passed through. Everything was shattered into pieces. It was a complete mess. Tang Zheng sighed in his heart. After this battle, more than half of the Imperial City would be destroyed, and the culprit behind all of this was Song Yu. If he had not used explosives, the array formation would not have been damaged, and the dragon's roar would not have come out. But it was too late for that now. Under the sweep of the sword energy, Junko's ninjutsu failed, and she was forced to reveal herself. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up, and Battle Soul pierced through Junko's shoulder and came out of her body. Ah! Junko let out a scream as she held Battle Soul with both of her hands and quickly retreated. Puff! The War Soul sword was pulled out, and was about to stab out another fatal strike. Junko's heart was about to burst, and her eyes were filled with despair. She originally thought that she could do whatever she wanted after acknowledging the multiform Starlord as her master. But she did not expect that the Empyrean Fairy was so powerful that it was abnormal. Even though she had seen how powerful the Empyrean Fairy was when she attacked Tang Zheng's villa, that was only a small test of the Empyrean Fairy's skills. So she did not expect that this was the true level of the Empyrean Fairy. She glanced at the Empyrean Fairy and the multiform Starlord from the corner of her eyes, and unwillingly screamed, "Master, save me." The multiform Starlord's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. The people he had subdued were either dead or injured, and Junko was indeed obedient. He did not want her to die for the time being. Seeing Tang Zheng's killing blow, he hurriedly shouted, "Yamada no Orochi, get over here and save me." His voice reached the horizon and rumbled like thunder in the sky above the Imperial City. Yamada no Orochi, who was originally entangled with two mechas, twisted its huge body and knocked down a palace. Taking advantage of the chaos, it rushed to the center of the Imperial City. The battle between Yamada no Orochi and the mechas was also very tragic. Both sides were injured. One of the mechas had an arm crippled, and the other had a large piece of the mecha's waist swept away. As for Yamada no Orochi, it did not have much of an advantage. A few scales fell from its body, and one of its heads was torn off. It was definitely a heavy loss. The mechas were slightly hindered by the palace that was swept away, and Yamada no Orochi escaped. Number 1 walked out from the corner. The battle just now had frightened him, but when he heard the fierce battle coming from the center of the Imperial City, he guessed that it must be Tang Zheng who had come. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart as he had no choice but to admit that Tang Zheng was truly powerful. He could not even deal with Yamada no Orochi, let alone the multiform Starlord himself. And from the sound, it was obvious that Tang Zheng was restraining the multiform Starlord. That was why he exposed himself and called for Yamada no Orochi's help. No wonder the chief tolerated Tang Zhang's behavior so many times. The chief knows better than me that Tang Zhang is not a person who can be defeated by force. If we force him step by step, I am afraid that in the end, we will not get any benefits. Number 1 thought and felt that he finally understood the chief's mind. Seeing Yamada no Orochi running away, Number 1 was worried about the dragon, so he quickly ordered, "Chase." He followed behind the 2 mechas and quickly chased to the center of the imperial city, leaving the ordinary soldiers outside. This level of battle was no longer something they could control. If they rushed forward, they would only be cannon fodder. At the critical moment, Number 1 finally showed some mercy and did not order them to continue to charge forward. War spirit was about to pierce Junko's heart. She retreated again and again, but in the end, there was no way to retreat. She was desperate. Suddenly, a fishy smell came to her nose. She was overjoyed and shouted, "Yamada no Orochi, save me!" Whoosh! A huge tail swept toward Tang Zhang. Tang Zhang did not dodge. Instead, he raised war spirit and slashed at it. Clang! Sparks flew, and a piece of scale fell off, leaving a bloody mess. Tang Zhang was overjoyed. His cultivation had increased so much during this period of time, and it was really useful. He could actually hurt Yamada no Orochi. One must know that when he was in Japan, he was helpless against the Yamada no Orochi. He had no way to fight back. However, the huge force still pushed him back dozens of meters. Junko patted her chest with lingering fear. Her heart almost jumped out of her chest. She did not care about the sword wound on her shoulder. She only felt that living was so wonderful. "Brat, I didn't kill you last time. Today, you can forget about escaping from my hands." Yamada no Orochi roared and attacked Tang Zhang with his head and tail. Squeak! Xiao Bai, who had been indifferent, finally moved. He spat out a mouthful of flames, and Yamada no Orochi quickly dodged. It knew how powerful this flame was. Xiao Bai floated in front of Tang Zhang angrily and stared at Yamada no Orochi. Yamada no Orochi's huge eyes also stared at him. "Little guy, it's you again. I'm going to eat you." Yamada no Orochi roared, but he was not in a hurry to attack. Instead, he opened his bloody mouth. Tang Zhang hurriedly held his breath as a puff of black smoke came out of his mouth, giving off an incomparably fishy stench. Squeak squeak! Xiao Bai suddenly shouted at Tang Zhang and covered his mouth and nose. Tang Zhang's head trembled, looking at Xiao Bai's nervous expression. Could it be that the black smoke was poisonous? Not only did he slow down, he quickly retreated. Black smoke rolled, sweeping towards Tang Zhang. Wherever it passed, even the stone slabs on the ground would rot. Roar! Suddenly, a black shadow rushed into the black smoke, and with a loud roar, the black shadow flew out again, landing at Tang Zhang's feet. Tang Zhang was shocked. It was actually Huang Xiang. Seeing that Tang Zhang was threatened, he actually attacked without caring about anything else. However, at the moment, Huang Xiang was in an extremely sorry state. His clothes were corroded by the black smoke and were in tatters. However, his skin did not rot. Tang Zhang suddenly realized that he had an indestructible body, so the black smoke could not hurt him. Although Tang Zhang also cultivated the chaotic Vidra spell and his realm was not weak, he was still a living person and could not be compared to Huang Xiang. If he rushed in, he would definitely not pay attention to breathing in the black smoke, which would be fatal to him. Huang Xiang was a puppet, which was equivalent to a dead object, so he was not afraid of the black smoke. Huang Xiang got up again and moved his muscles and bones. Although his clothes were tattered, his body was in good condition. His eyes shone with a cold light and his whole body emitted a cold aura. He took a step back and rushed forward again. Bang! He flew out from the black smoke again. This time, Yamada no Orochi's roar was even louder, like thunder. However, Yamada no Orochi was hidden behind the black smoke, so Tang Zheng could not see clearly what kind of injuries it had suffered. Huang Xiang crawled up and patted his clothes, as if nothing had happened. Even Tang Zheng could not help but admire him. This is not the way to go on. Since your black smoke is harmful to living beings, I will use the four symbols venerable to deal with you. Tang Zheng's heart moved as he came up with a countermeasure. Back then, when he was on the island nation, the four symbols venerable had been severely injured, so when he was dealing with the Yamada no Orochi, the four symbols venerable had not been of any use. This time, not only had the four symbols venerable completely recovered, his strength had also risen to another level, so Tang Zheng was very worried about who was stronger and who was weaker between the two of them. The venerable four symbols landed heavily on the ground, and two pits immediately appeared on the ground. The venerable four symbols was slightly lower than a mech, and was as black as ink. It did not have the fancy appearance of a mech, but it gave off a very powerful feeling. Number 1 hid in the distance and did not immediately let the mech join the battle. Instead, he stared at the four symbols venerable without blinking. This was the first time he had seen the four symbols venerable with his own eyes. Although he had seen the information about the four symbols venerable before, it was far from being as shocking as seeing it with his own eyes. Where did he find these things? Number 1 couldn't help but feel a little jealous of Tang Zheng. I'm so envious. The four symbols venerable did not say anything. After a run-up, it charged into the black smoke. Sounds of fierce fighting could be heard from the black smoke, and the black smoke kept tumbling and was stirred up into pieces. Huang Xiang charged out again and disappeared into the black smoke. Immediately, the fight became more intense. Yamada no Orochi roared again and again, and the ground was almost trembling. Chapter 895. The battle between the three powerhouses was earth-shattering. Cracks spread out from the black smoke as if the mountains were collapsing. Whoosh! Huang Xiang flew out again, but this time, he was holding a huge, hideous head in his hand. He took the opportunity while Yamada no Orochi and the four symbols were fighting fiercely to take down one of its heads. He was indeed powerful. Tang Zheng could not help but be shocked. He thought to himself that the heaven monk was truly awesome, to actually nurture such a powerful puppet. Speak of the devil. A ray of sword light fell from the sky and slashed at the black smoke. The sword light disappeared, and blood soared into the sky. Yamada no Orochi's hysterical roar could be heard. Tang Zheng was slightly delighted. He quickly looked up and saw Tian Chanzi floating in the air with a sword in his hand. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and he looked like an immortal who had descended to the mortal world. He didn't stop after the first strike, and quickly slashed out a few more times. Immediately, the black room churned, and Yamada no Orochi's enormous body rushed out of the black smoke, while the four symbols venerable and Huang Xiang chased after it like a shadow. Number 1 watched this scene in the dark and was still in shock. Seeing Yamada no Orochi rushing towards him, he quickly shouted, "Stop it!" Two mechas rushed forward. Their huge iron fists tore through the air and smashed onto Yamada no Orochi's head. Bang! Two of its eyeballs exploded. Yamada no Orochi let out a roar, but it didn't retreat. It took the opportunity to bite the mecha's arm. Poof! The arm was torn off, and sparks flew from the broken arm. The other snake head also attacked. Its bloody mouth fell from the sky. The mecha didn't have time to dodge and its head was bitten. Bang! An intense electric current crackled. Sparks flew everywhere. The mecha's head was separated from its body and it fell to the ground. There was a loud crash, and dust flew everywhere. Number 1 watched this scene with his heart bleeding. This mecha wasn't cheap, and it was destroyed just like that. The other mecha took the opportunity to grab one of its tails. The missile on its arm directly bombarded the tail at close range. With a loud explosion, blood filled the sky as the tail was blown away. Yamada no Orochi continued to struggle and roar, but to no avail. The other pursuers had also arrived. The four symbols venerable stomped on one of its tails, preventing it from escaping. Then, a pitch-black fist smashed into its body. It trembled violently and paused for a few seconds. A huge wound appeared on its body. Blood gushed out like a huge black hole. This punch landed on the main part of its body, not its head and tail, so the damage it received was more serious than if its head and tail were broken. Tian Chanzi descended from the sky, and his long sword opened a huge trench-like wound on Orochi's body. Yamada no Orochi's struggle slowed down. Anger and despair coexisted in its eyes as it roared unwillingly, "Master, save me." Hundred Face of course saw a group of people besieging Yamada no Orochi, but he couldn't do anything. He was too reckless. He thought that he could easily find Dragon. He didn't expect the enemy to arrive much earlier than he expected. Even the strength of the government's counterattack was beyond his imagination. The mecha wasn't easy to deal with. Besides, if he hadn't searched the ground for so long before finding the array, he would have activated the array to find Dragon. Hold on. Hundred Face couldn't even take care of himself. How could he save Yamada no Orochi? He knew that this couldn't go on. He had to find Dragon. Otherwise, all his sacrifices would be in vain. The moment he was distracted, the Empyrean fairy's attack came. As if struck by lightning, he fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. Dust filled the air, and a huge pit several meters deep was created. The Empyrean maiden was about to follow up with another attack when she suddenly shouted, "Oh no!" Her figure flashed and she jumped into the huge crater, disappearing into the dust without making a sound. Ha! Tang Zhang had been paying attention to the situation. When he heard the Empyrean fairy scream, he immediately noticed something was wrong. His expression changed slightly. Hundred Face of Face has found the array. He is activating it. He rushed to the big pit. However, the array had been closed. There was no one in the big pit. Obviously, Hundred Face of Face and the Empyrean fairy had both entered the mysterious space under the Imperial City. He didn't look back. He immediately activated the array and chased after them. Many others also saw the situation here, but they didn't have time to chase after them. Especially number one, he had already guessed a little, but he could only sigh and feel powerless. Yamada no Orochi was attacked one after another. He was already exhausted. His futile struggle was getting slower and slower. Junko was hiding in the dark far away. Seeing this scene, her heart was as cold as ice. She knew that this operation had gone down the drain. If she didn't leave now, she wouldn't be able to leave until her opponent regained his senses. Therefore, she fled without looking back. She didn't care about Hundred Face of Face and Yamada no Orochi at all. After such a big battle, the Imperial City was no longer as tightly guarded as before. Therefore, Junko found a loophole and escaped from the Imperial City. Moreover, when everyone's attention was attracted to the Imperial City, she sneaked out of the capital. She didn't dare to stay for a moment. She directly returned to the island nation. Yamada no Orochi was not so lucky. He was already full of wounds. After being attacked by the joint attack, he fell to the ground with a bang. It was difficult for him to get up again. I, Yamada no Orochi, have lived for thousands of years. I didn't expect that I would fall into your hands in the end. I can't accept this. Yamada no Orochi's pupils were like huge lanterns. He roared unwillingly. You escaped from Huaxia. Now that you dare to come back, you should know what will happen to you. You have only yourself to blame. Don't you know how many people have died in your mouth? For the souls of those who died unjustly, taking your life is the right thing to do. Tian Chanzi said righteously. Tang Jing once told him that during the disaster of Huaxia, the island nation secretly transported tens of thousands of people from Huaxia and stuffed them into the stomach of Yamada no Orochi. That was why its strength could recover so much. No less than 100,000 people died in its stomach. This kind of evil beast was not killed to appease the anger of the people. Even if Tian Chanzi had a firm mind, when he heard the news, he was furious. Being able to kill Yamada no Orochi was an explanation for the people who died. Number 1 didn't understand the reason. Seeing that Yamada no Orochi had little strength to resist, he really wanted to say that they shouldn't kill it. It would be better to capture it for research. After all, this kind of demon beast was hard to come by. But he swallowed the words back. No matter what official status he had no right to speak here. Here, the strong were respected. He was the weakest. Even if he spoke until his throat was broken, no one would listen to him. Why should he humiliate himself? Go to hell, Yamada no Orochi. Tian Chanzi raised his long sword high, and the sword light flashed. Desperation flashed in Yamada no Orochi's eyes, but they were quickly filled with raging flames. It roared unyieldingly, "I won't die." It still wanted to make a dying struggle. Suddenly, a white light flashed, and Xiao Bai flew over from nowhere directly to the wound of Yamada no Orochi. Yamada no Orochi's movements were half a beat slower. Although it clearly saw Xiao Bai's movements, it still couldn't stop it. Xiao Bai's 2 pairs of small claws fell on the wound of Yamada no Orochi. With a scratch, a piece of scale was peeled off. With a flash of white light, Xiao Bai disappeared. Roar! Then, Yamada no Orochi let out a heart-wrenching scream, which was particularly terrifying and shook the wilderness. Its huge body kept twisting on the ground. In the end, it directly rose into the air and fell heavily. The others were shocked and quickly retreated. Yamada no Orochi crazily used its head and tail. With a rumbling sound, the buildings of the imperial city were destroyed. Tian Chanzi looked thoughtfully at the struggling Yamada no Orochi and muttered to himself, "Interesting. This little guy actually knows that it's a good thing." What was it? Number 1 was confused and looked at Yamada no Orochi blankly. Then why did Xiao Bai do that? Suddenly, Yamada no Orochi's body twitched and completely stopped struggling. Its eyes were wide open, but it had lost its color and vitality. Yamada no Orochi was dead. Number 1 was stunned. Such a powerful existence actually died, but it was a pity that it didn't die in his hands. It was related to that little guy. Pang! A cloud of blood mist exploded, and a big hole appeared in Yamada no Orochi's abdomen. Xiao Bai walked out leisurely and swaggered out with a satisfied look on its face. Its body was smooth, without a trace of blood, and there was a crystal-clear thing in its mouth. Inner core. Everyone immediately recognized it, including Number 1. After all, the government had captured many monsters, and mechas were powered by the energy of the monster's inner core. Since Yamada no Orochi was so powerful, how powerful was its inner core? Number 1 didn't dare to imagine, but there was no doubt that if this inner core was used to power the mecha's combat power would definitely be more powerful. This battle made him deeply understand the role of mechas, which were far more powerful than his own. If he could create a more powerful mecha, then even if he faced such a powerful monster in the future, he would have the power to fight back. He wouldn't necessarily have to rely on Tang Jing. Just as he opened his mouth and was about to say not to damage the inner core, Xiao Bai's little mouth immediately bit on the inner core. Like a giant whale sucking in water, the inner core quickly shrank and finally disappeared into its little mouth. Number 1 was stunned with his mouth open. Xiao Bai ate the inner core. Burp. Xiao Bai opened its mouth and let out a satisfied burp. Its little body swayed as it walked towards Tian Chanzi. Just as it walked to Tian Chanzi's feet, it used its claws to scratch the instep of his feet. Its eyes were half closed, and finally, its head tilted to one side and it fell down as if it was drunk. Looking at its charmingly naive appearance, Tian Chanzi couldn't help but laugh. He knew Xiao Bai's state very well. After it ate the inner core, the energy of the inner core was slowly spreading, so it was sleepy. It was digesting the energy. It had been in this state before, so it didn't care. With a laugh, it picked up Xiao Bai and handed it to Huang Xiang. Protect it. Huang Xiang carefully held Xiao Bai and looked around vigilantly, as if afraid that someone would come and snatch it away. Chapter 896. Number 1's gaze moved away from Xiao Bai and landed on Tian Chanzi. Now that Orochi was dead and Tang Zheng and the others had disappeared, he was at a loss. Tian Chanzi didn't even look at him and glanced at the center of the imperial palace. He knew that they must have gone to that place. It wasn't good for him to chase after them in front of so many people. He had to stay on guard so that Number 1 and the others wouldn't dare to act rashly. Moreover, with the Empyrean Ferry, he didn't have to worry about Tang Zheng's safety. Number 1 finally couldn't help but ask anxiously, "May I ask where Tang Zheng and the others went?" Tian Chanzi looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile and said jokingly, "Do you want to know?" Number 1 hesitated for a moment and nodded. "Should we chase after them in case he's in danger?" Tian Chanzi chuckled. "Do you know where they went?" This. Number 1 was speechless. The pit wasn't deep and he had already seen the bottom. There wasn't any passage. In other words, the disappearance of the 3 people was definitely not that simple. It must be some kind of mysterious method of the cultivators. He couldn't think of anything even if he racked his brains. Now he understood that finding the dragon wasn't something that could be done by digging 3 feet into the ground. It had to be done through some kind of mysterious method of the cultivators. Although I don't know, Senior definitely knows that the 100 Transformation Starlord is very powerful. We can't let the 100 Transformation Starlord succeed. With our help, we will definitely get twice the result with half the effort. Number 1's reaction was not slow, and he immediately thought of an excuse. "You don't have to worry about that. You should clean up this mess." Tian Chanzi still didn't fall for it and pointed at the messy imperial palace. Number 1's face was troubled. He was angry but didn't dare to say anything. This was the mission given to him by the chief and he hadn't even completed half of it. However, he had no choice. His gaze subconsciously fell on the corpse of Orochi and his heart jumped. The body of a monster was a treasure, even if it was a corpse. Although they couldn't find the dragon, if they took the corpse back for research, they might have unexpected gains. He quickly ordered the soldiers outside to take Yamada no Orochi away. Yamada no Orochi was killed by Xiao Bai. "I'm afraid it's not up to you to decide," Tian Chanzi said calmly. "Ha!" Number 1 was stunned, his body stiffening subconsciously, as if his thoughts had been seen through. He said awkwardly, "Senior, isn't this thing a hindrance if we leave it here?" "I'll handle it for you." Tian Chanzi said with a fake smile, "You think it's an eyesore, right?" Number 1 nodded subconsciously. "Then it's not an eyesore anymore." Tian Chanzi waved his hand casually, and Number 1's eyes widened into lanterns. Yamada no Orochi had vanished into thin air. Tian Chanzi smiled and said, "Is this still an eyesore?" Number 1 shook his head blankly. This was indeed not an eyesore, but he wanted to cry. How could they bully people like this? "You didn't even leave me a single bit of loot. How am I supposed to report back?" Tian Chanzi didn't care about his feelings. He turned his head and stared at the big hole without blinking. Tang Zheng followed into the tunnel, only to find that 100 Faces and the Empyrean Fairy were fighting fiercely. 100 Faces retreated as he fought, but he retreated deeper into the tunnel, where the five-clawed golden dragon was. 100 Faces had the geographical advantage. No matter how they attacked, they couldn't stop him. Instead, he retreated closer and closer to the five-clawed golden dragon. Suddenly, 100 Faces' eyelids twitched, and his face showed ecstasy. I can feel the dragon's breath. Huh, you tried so hard to stop me. Do you really think you can succeed? He blocked the Empyrean fairy with one move and ran back without looking back. In an instant, he arrived at the hall where the five-clawed golden dragon was imprisoned. He looked up and his eyes were filled with disbelief. He exclaimed, "The five-clawed golden dragon, it's the five-clawed golden dragon, ha ha ha." His laughter echoed in the hall. Clatter. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at the uninvited guest and twisted his body. The iron chains on his 5 claws made a crisp sound. 100 Faces' eyes changed slightly. He's still shackled. He's really imprisoned here. Who are you? The five-clawed golden dragon asked majestically. His voice was so loud that it made people's eardrums buzz. 100 Faces wasn't affected. Instead, he looked at the five-clawed golden dragon with a smile. My name is 100 Faces. You can remember this name. So you're 100 Faces. The five-clawed golden dragon had heard this name from Tangjing, so he was familiar with it. The 100 Transformation Star Lord said in astonishment, "You actually know me. I presume that Brat Tangjing told you." The five-clawed golden dragon didn't answer immediately. Instead, he focused on Tangjing and the Empyrean fairy, who were chasing after him. "Why did you lure him here?" the five-clawed golden dragon asked. "We didn't lure him here. He smelled it like a dog and came here to find you. I don't know what he's up to." Tangjing said angrily. 100 Faces was prepared to slay the dragon, but when he saw that it was the five-clawed golden dragon and that it was imprisoned, he immediately changed his plan. In fact, 100 Faces was so confident that he came to slay the dragon because he had misjudged the situation. He thought that there must be a weak young dragon under the imperial city. Otherwise, it wouldn't be imprisoned here. Therefore, he was confident that he could kill this young dragon and extract its essence. He could also force out the secret of the dragon clan. However, he never thought that it would be a five-clawed golden dragon. The five-clawed golden dragon was already considered a very powerful dragon clan. One had to know that the dragon embroidered on the emperor's dragon robe only had 5 claws, which was the five-clawed golden dragon. They already thought that this was the limit of dragons. However, 100 Faces knew that the five-clawed golden dragon was only the middle level of strength in the dragon clan. The highest level could reach 9 claws, which was really powerful. However, even if it was a five-clawed golden dragon, it was still extremely powerful. It was far from being something that ordinary cultivators could contend against. Therefore, when he saw that it was a five-clawed golden dragon that was imprisoned, he couldn't help but admire the strong person who imprisoned it. His methods were really not something that ordinary people could compare to. Since the other party was a five-clawed golden dragon, then his previous plan could not be carried out. If he wanted to kill a dragon, he could still do it. However, if it was a five-clawed golden dragon, then he knew that he did not have the ability to do so. Moreover, he was sure that Orochi would not be able to escape misfortune if he stayed above and was besieged. Without Orochi, if he could subdue the five-clawed golden dragon, that would be a joyous occasion. How could Orochi be compared to the five-clawed golden dragon? This was a dragon, which was worlds apart from a snake. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign rolled his eyes and looked at Tangjing with a smile that was not a smile. He said meaningfully, "I am really curious as to how you are able to coexist peacefully with a five-clawed golden dragon. You are clearly very familiar with it. However, this is not a problem for me. When I saw its shackles, I understood everything." Tangjing suddenly had an ominous premonition and said, "What do you understand?" You can coexist peacefully with it, so you must have reached some kind of agreement. If I am not wrong, it wants to use you to escape from here, right? 100 Faces stared at Tang Zheng as he said this. He wanted to distinguish the truth of his words from his reaction. Tang Zheng's heart beat wildly. 100 Faces was too smart. He actually guessed the truth just by relying on this superficial information. Tang Zheng finally understood what that ominous premonition was. Because once 100 Faces knew about the agreement between him and the five-clawed golden dragon, he could completely replace him. Moreover, 100 Faces' cultivation was far higher than Tang Zheng's. He had already reached the divine transformation realm. He could completely break the formation and release the five-clawed golden dragon. With the five-clawed golden dragon's eagerness to escape, Tang Zheng could not guarantee that it would not be moved. As if to confirm his guess, the 100 Star Lord continued, although I don't know what conditions are needed to break this formation and release the five-clawed golden dragon, I think cultivation is one of them. Your cultivation is still too low, so you haven't succeeded. Am I right? Tang Zheng was silent, speechless. Your cultivation is not enough, but I can. 100 Faces laughed wildly. He turned around and stared straight at the five-clawed golden dragon, looking into its two breathtaking huge dragon eyes. I am afraid you are already very worried about being trapped here. I can release you immediately. How about it? Although the five-clawed golden dragon was powerful, it was imprisoned here after all. There was no way its strength could be compared to its peak state. Therefore, 100 Faces was not too afraid of it. Therefore, there was nothing wrong with letting it out. Moreover, when it was about to escape, when its guard was at its weakest, he could use some means to control the five-clawed golden dragon like how he controlled Yamada no Orochi. Subduing a five-clawed golden dragon. It was so cool just thinking about it. Since ancient times, he had never heard of anyone who could do this. The five-clawed golden dragon had once asked the Empyrean fairy to release it, but the Empyrean fairy had mercilessly refused. Because of this, it was quite dissatisfied with the Empyrean fairy. At this moment, when it heard 100 Faces' words, it was indeed moved. Are you serious? 100 Faces glanced at Tang Zheng. When he saw Tang Zheng's expression change greatly, he could not help but say proudly, of course, I am willing to help others. The five-clawed golden dragon did not immediately agree. The look in its eyes kept changing. It looked at Tang Zheng for a while and then looked at 100 Faces as if it was making a choice. Tang Zheng could not sit still and said quickly, Five-clawed golden dragon, don't listen to his nonsense. He is vicious and definitely has no good intentions. Do you have good intentions? The Empyrean fairy clearly could have released it, but she turned a blind eye to it. This is the most despicable behavior. Letting it be imprisoned for one more day means that it will suffer a little more. You don't think about the five-clawed golden dragon at all. Your intentions are terrible. 100 Faces complained. Tang Zheng's face turned ashen. This unforeseen event was too big and completely disrupted his steps. However, the five-clawed golden dragon was in charge of all this, so he quickly advised, Five-clawed golden dragon, don't be deceived by him. He has no good intentions. The five-clawed golden dragon looked deeply at Tang Zheng and could not help but remember the argument with Tang Zheng some time ago. Tang Zheng did not approve of its revenge on humans after it was released and even made it very unhappy. Could it be that for this reason, he deliberately encouraged the Empyrean fairy to not agree to its request, so that it could continue to be imprisoned here? Chapter 897. Seeing the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes, Tang Zheng's heartbeat accelerated. He knew that things were developing in a direction he didn't want to see the most. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign succeeded in sowing discord with a few words, causing the five-clawed golden dragon to have other thoughts. Tang Zheng, you want to imprison me here forever, don't you? The five-clawed golden dragon asked angrily. Tang Jing firmly shook his head and said truthfully, I never had such thoughts. Who would believe your words? You don't mean what you say. Even if your cultivation is not good enough, the Empyrean Fairy's cultivation is here. If you ask, would she not agree? The 100 Faces Star Sovereign continued to provoke. Tang Jing frowned. He couldn't wait to kill the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. This person's mind was too vicious. Although he was indeed worried that the 5-clawed golden dragon would harm the human world, he would not break his promise. At that time, he promised to wait until his cultivation reached the deity transformation realm before breaking the formation and freeing the 5-clawed golden dragon. Now that his cultivation was far from that level, he couldn't break the formation, so he didn't break his promise. In fact, he had been thinking of a way to subtly dissolve the 5-clawed golden dragon's hatred for humans. Even if it wanted to take revenge, it would have to find the person who imprisoned it. What did it have to do with these ordinary people now? He believed that with his efforts, he would be able to dissolve the 5-clawed golden dragon's hostility to ordinary people before letting it go. But he didn't expect that after the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's interruption, everything would be in vain. Seeing Tang Zhang's expression of wanting to kill him, the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's lips curled into a proud sneer. The 5-clawed golden dragon still stared at Tang Zhang and said, I don't believe your words. Tang Zhang was very depressed and said unwillingly, if you believe him, you will definitely regret it in the future. I just want to get out as soon as possible. I will naturally believe whoever can help me get out. The 5-clawed golden dragon said stubbornly. Tang Jing shook his head and sighed. He had nothing to say. 100 Change Star Sovereign, can you really help me regain my freedom? The 5-clawed golden dragon asked. The 100 Change Star Sovereign laughed out loud. Haha, of course. If he can do it, I can do it too. If he can't, I can do it too. The 5-clawed golden dragon was very satisfied with the 100 Change Star Sovereign's confidence. He nodded slightly and said, then help me get out of here. Multiform Starlord's eyes lit up as he looked at Tang Jing provocatively. He roared, good, and then prepared to attack. The Empyrean Fairy snorted and finally stood up. Do you really think I'm invisible? You want to stop me? The 5-clawed golden dragon flew into a rage and glared fiercely at the Empyrean Fairy. The Empyrean Fairy wasn't afraid at all. She stared back at it and said, it's useless for you to stare at me. Do you think you can kill me? Wait until I'm free. I definitely won't let you go. The 5-clawed golden dragon said. The Empyrean Fairy curled her lips. Then I can't let you get out. After saying this, she looked at the 100 Change Star Sovereign with contempt. Do you really think it's easy to break the formation? With our interference, do you think you can succeed? The 100 Change Star Sovereign's heart skipped a beat. He didn't dare to make any guarantees, but he still didn't back down. No matter how you interfere, I'm determined to save the 5-clawed golden dragon. Don't you know how cruel it is to imprison it here? The 100 Change Star Sovereign obviously wanted to show off in front of the 5-clawed golden dragon. He even said such ridiculous words. You still have the nerve to say the word cruel. Don't you know how many people you've killed? The Empyrean Fairy jokingly retorted. Humph, in this world, the strong are respected. The weak are prey to the strong. What does it matter if the weak die? The 5-clawed golden dragon is a strong person, so it naturally shouldn't suffer. The 100 Change Star Sovereign said righteously. But all of this was twisted logic. Tang Jing finally couldn't help but scold, nonsense, do the weak deserve to die? Tang Jing couldn't help but recall his childhood. At that time, he was weak, and even his grandfather was insignificant. Did he deserve to be bullied? Especially when he was in school, he didn't have any grades, so he was bullied. Did this deserve it? Nonsense. If one could only be called strong by bullying the weak, then could one still be called strong? That could only mean that they were strong on the outside but weak on the inside. They could only show their strength by bullying those who were weaker than them. This was a kind of false strength that could be broken in one strike. After hearing Tang Zheng's question, the 100-change-star sovereign said as a matter of fact, "Of course, the weak have no right to speak. The 5-clawed golden dragon is imprisoned here, so it is also a weak person. What reason does it have to go out?" Tang Zheng roared. "You dare say I'm weak?" The 5-clawed golden dragon roared, its huge body twisted, causing the shackles to clatter. The huge dragon head leaned towards Tang Zheng, spitting out dragon breath, causing Tang Zheng's clothes to flutter. Tang Zheng didn't retreat at all, staring straight at the 5-clawed golden dragon, the big and small forming a strong contrast. However, Tang Zheng's aura was not weak, allowing the dragon breath to blow on him like a blade. The 100-change-star sovereign was also shocked by the 5-clawed golden dragon's actions and aura. Even if it was him facing this kind of aura, he couldn't help but be frightened. This Tang Zheng's cultivation was still weak, but he could calmly accept it. However, he didn't know that Tang Zheng cultivated the dragon god arts, and his body had long accumulated dragon qi, secretly containing the dragon's might. Moreover, after being with the 5-clawed golden dragon for so long, he had long been immune to its aura. Tang Zheng didn't even blink as he coldly stared at the 5-clawed golden dragon in front of him, saying, "According to the 100-change-star sovereign's theory, you are weak." "You." The 5-clawed golden dragon opened its mouth and let out a dragon roar. The strong wind blew Tang Zheng back a few steps, and then his feet fell heavily on the ground, as if they had taken root and sprouted, rooted to the ground, motionless. Seeing this situation, the 100-change-star sovereign couldn't help but admire Tang Zheng's courage in addition to being frightened. However, this trace of admiration disappeared in a flash, and then turned into a strong hostility. The more extraordinary Tang Zheng was, the more he wanted to get rid of him, and nip all the possible threats in the future in the bud. Seeing that Tang Zheng had brought the flames of war to his side, the 100-transformation Star Lord gnashed his teeth in hatred and immediately defended himself. "You are twisting words and forcing logic. When did I say that the 5-clawed golden dragon is weak? I have always emphasized that it is strong, absolutely strong, without a doubt. But it is imprisoned here. Can it still be considered strong? Before you flatter me, you better check if there are any loopholes in your point of view." "Humph," Tang Zheng said disdainfully. The 100-change-star sovereign's face stiffened. There were indeed loopholes in his point of view, but before he spoke, he didn't expect Tang Zheng to be so smart, to be able to find his loopholes so easily. But even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't admit it, so he just directly said, "5-clawed golden dragon, let's not talk nonsense with them, the most important thing is to break the formation first." The 5-clawed golden dragon thought for a moment, then nodded. "That's reasonable." Then he glared at Tang Zheng and said, "If you dare to stop me, don't blame me for not caring about our old friendship. Are you going to kill me? Don't think that just because you are a Skywalker, I won't dare to kill you." The 5-clawed golden dragon said angrily. The 100-change-star sovereign also said, "Skywalkers are not that great. Back then Chi was so powerful, but didn't you also extinguish your life and death lamp? I am still alive, but he is dead. Tell me, what is so great about Skywalkers?" The 100-change-star sovereign thought that he was very proud of himself, but this sentence poked a hornet's nest. Chiyu's heart flew into a rage. "I want to kill the 100-change-star sovereign. Who does he think he is, to dare to ridicule me like this?" The inner demon said with schadenfreude, "Although this person is spouting nonsense, but this sentence is deeply touched by my heart. Chiyu, you are not that great in the first place." Chiyu coldly snorted and said, "I am not that great, but back then I also imprisoned you in that canyon." The inner demons was speechless, faintly said, "Can you not mention that matter back then? You were the one who wanted to mention it, now you know how it feels to poke a sore spot." Chiyu retorted. Hearing the two of them arguing again, Tang Jing angrily said, "Stop arguing, think of a way to solve the crisis in front of us. We definitely can't let the 100-Faces Star Sovereign release the 5-clawed golden dragon. He wants to break the formation, and with the help of the 5-clawed golden dragon, you might not be able to stop him." The inner demon said pessimistically. "Didn't you always boast that you are very powerful? Why are you retreating at the last moment and at a loss of what to do?" Tang Jing unhappily said sarcastically. "Who said I am not powerful?" Chi retorted, "We must think of a way to teach the 100 Star Sovereign a lesson. We can't let him be so arrogant. He still dares to say that Skywalkers are not powerful. Skywalkers are thousands of times more powerful than him. He is not even qualified to carry the shoes of a Skywalker." Chi Yu's temper was not very good. The 100 Star Sovereign's words had touched his reverse scale, so he was like a barrel of gunpowder, exploding at the slightest touch. "Get to the point, there is a way." Tang Jing roared inwardly. Chi Yu hesitated for a moment and said, "There is definitely a way, but I haven't thought of one yet, let me think about it." Tang Jing really wanted to chop him into pieces. If there was no way, then what was the point of talking about it? By the time he thought of a way, it would already be too late. The inner demons did not forget to attack him. "Don't think about it, there is no way." Hearing the inner demon's words, Tang Jing angrily shouted, "Shut up." As soon as his voice fell, the inner demon couldn't say a word. Chi Yu laughed dryly with pride. "You are still laughing. If you can't think of a way, then don't even think about talking," Tang Jing said fiercely. Chi Yu's laughter stopped abruptly, and he hurriedly racked his brains to think of a solution. Tang Jing coldly looked at the 100 Star Sovereign and said, "You insulted Skywalkers, especially Chi Yu. You will be very miserable, I promise." The 100 Star Sovereign snorted and said disdainfully, "I will be miserable, what can you do to me?" "Humph, what a shameless boast. Break the formation." The 5-clawed golden dragon did not want to argue anymore, it impatiently roared. It had been imprisoned for hundreds of years, it already could not wait to see the light of day again. Chapter 898. The moment the array was broken, the 100 Star Sovereign took action. "The core of the array is behind me, go in quickly," the 5-clawed golden dragon said. With a wave of its tail, it blocked the path of Tang Jing and the Empyrean Fairy. The 100 Star Sovereign sneered as his evil plan succeeded. He went past the 5-clawed golden dragon and arrived behind it. "Stop him!" Tang Jing shouted. There was something in the core of the array that was very important to him, the Heaven and Earth Black Stone. This array was maintained by the Heaven and Earth Black Stone. If the array was broken, the Heaven and Earth Black Stone would definitely reappear in the world. The 100 Star Sovereign was very familiar with the Heaven and Earth Black Stone. Back then, the stairway to heaven was destroyed by him. If he snatched the Heaven and Earth Black Stone, then Tang Jing would cry but have no tears. So, the Empyrean Fairy flew over and the dragon's tail swept towards her. She shouted and took out the mountain river map. A terrifying pressure came from the mountain river map. A vine extended out and clashed with the dragon's tail in midair. Bang! With a loud sound, the hall shook. The vine broke into two and the dragon's tail flickered with golden light. However, the attack came to an abrupt end. The Empyrean Fairy took the opportunity to fly over the 5-clawed golden dragon's head and landed in front of the door. The 100 Star Sovereign had already pushed the door open. "Stop!" the Empyrean Fairy shouted. Whoosh! A strong gust of wind blew behind her. Without turning her head, the Empyrean Fairy pointed her finger backward and a huge rock flew out of the painting of mountains and rivers of the gods of Vale. Another explosive sound rang out as the dragon's tail swept across the boulder. Rubble flew everywhere like sharp arrows. Tang Jing took out the sacred armor shield and blocked the rocks. Then, he leaped up and waved War Soul to attack. Since the five-clawed golden dragon was not benevolent, then he had no more worries. He had to stop them. Boom! Heaven flying immortal, a sword from the west. The war soul sword directly slashed onto the five-clawed golden dragon's body, creating an intense spark. The golden light flickered and then gradually disappeared. The scale armor actually dimmed and lost its luster. Tang Zheng was secretly delighted. The war soul sword was indeed worthy of being a saint artifact. Its power was indeed extraordinary. The five-clawed golden dragon glared at Tang Zheng and said in surprise, "Your war soul sword has actually become a holy artifact." Tang Zheng had not displayed his magic treasure in front of it for a long time, so the five-clawed golden dragon did not know about the transformation of the war soul sword. The scales of the five-clawed golden dragon were invulnerable. Ordinary magical weapons would not be able to harm it in the slightest. However, sacred tools were different. They could harm it. "How does my war soul sword taste?" Tang Zheng asked. "So what if it's a sacred tool? Do you really think you can beat me?" The five-clawed golden dragon said disdainfully. "I don't expect to win, as long as you stop you." Tang Zheng raised his sword and attacked again. With Tang Zheng's help, the Empyrean fairy was temporarily relieved. Seeing that the 100 transformation star sovereign was about to rush to the eye of the array, she shook the mountain river map. A terrifying suction force gushed out from the mountain river map, firmly locking onto the 100 transformation star sovereign. The 100 transformation star sovereign roared, "Don't even think of stopping me." The heavenly water banner waved behind it, causing a flood to appear out of thin air, sweeping towards the Empyrean fairy. This space was not big to begin with. When the flood appeared, it occupied almost half of the space. Most of the five-clawed golden dragon's body was submerged under the water. The Empyrean fairy was not afraid at all. The mountain river map suction force was activated, and in an instant, the flood was sucked in. But after such a delay, it was already too late. The 100 transformation star sovereign stood in the eye of the array and immediately used his magic to break the array. Boom! With a loud bang, the entire space shook violently. Rays of dazzling white light gushed out from the eye of the array, illuminating the surroundings. It even overshadowed the five-clawed golden dragon's golden light and the luminous pearl's radiance. The white light intertwined to form a light screen, enveloping the 100 transformation star sovereign. Boom, boom, boom. The earth trembled, and everyone felt dizzy. They swayed left and right, and the stones on the walls fell one by one. Tang Zheng's expression changed abruptly. He could not care less about the five-clawed golden dragon. He exclaimed, "Oh no, he has already started to break the array." "I know," the Empyrean fairy said coldly. Her figure flashed, wanting to rush into the light screen to stop the 100 transformation star sovereign. Bang! However, with a muffled sound, the Empyrean fairy crashed into the light screen, causing circles of ripples. The light screen was intact and did not shatter. The Empyrean fairy was stunned. She knew very well how powerful her attack was, but the light screen did not even budge. It was strange. She snorted coldly. She did not believe it and rushed out again. Bang! She was bounced back again. 100 Change Star Sovereign was still worried at first, but when he saw that the light screen was safe and sound and that the 9 Heavens Maiden had returned without any success, he was overjoyed. He laughed wildly. "Haha, 9 Heavens Maiden, continue. I want to see how you're going to break in." Tang Zheng was also stunned. What was going on with this light? Even the Empyrean fairy could not break through it. The five-clawed golden dragon also stopped and looked at the Empyrean fairy with ridicule. "Don't waste your energy. You won't be able to break through. The array is already disintegrating bit by bit. I can feel that I will soon regain my freedom." As his voice fell, the chains on the dragon's claws began to clatter and emit a metallic luster. The hall shook violently. The stones on the walls fell off as if there was an earthquake. At the same time, the entire capital moved. The earth seemed to have awakened. At first, there was a slight tremor, but then it became more intense. Beams of light rose into the air from all directions of the capital. Those who were familiar with the geography of the capital would know that these beams of light were coming from the gates of the old city walls of the capital. But now that the old city walls had been destroyed, most people would not be able to see any clues. These beams of light shot into the sky, illuminating the night sky. Cries of alarm rang out in the capital. Many people crawled out of their beds and shouted, "Earthquake, earthquake!" The shaking continued, but it did not cause the buildings to collapse. It was obvious that the intensity was not that great. But this kind of scene was really frightening. There were also a few beams of light in the sky. It really felt like a science fiction movie. Tian Chanzi looked at this scene and turned pale with fright. How can this be? Number one's legs were about to go soft. He barely supported himself and asked, "What's going on?" Tian Chanzi muttered to himself. He had already come to a conclusion. This was breaking the array. Someone was about to release the 5-clawed golden dragon. What exactly happened below? Why did they release the 5-clawed golden dragon? Tian Chanzi could not figure it out, but he could not sit still and wait for death. He hurriedly cast a spell and prepared to enter to investigate. However, he found that it was useless. The array had become extremely unstable. He had no way of entering. He was so anxious that he stomped his feet. What should he do? Something big was going to happen. What was going on below? He was like an ant on a hot pan, anxiously running around in circles. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, was not much better at the moment. The stones on the wall had completely fallen off, revealing a pitch-black space that one could not see the end of. We can't sit still and wait for death. Chiyu, didn't I tell you to think of a way? Have you thought of one? Tang Zheng was flustered and exasperated. His face was ashen. I'm still thinking of this method. Chiyu said hesitantly. Think about it. If you can't think of a way, then we're all going to die here. There must be a way, but it will take time to think of a way. Tang Zheng was fuming with anger. At this time, there was still so much nonsense. He was about to continue to get angry when he heard Chiyu shout in surprise, I thought of it, I thought of it. Tang Zheng's head trembled. A glimmer of hope ignited in him and said, say it quickly. Let's resolve the crisis. Chiyu did not dare to delay any longer and said quickly. Chiyu did not want to die. After saying that, he kept urging Tang Zheng to move quickly. Tang Zheng's eyes widened in surprise. So it could be like this. Why didn't he say it earlier? Why did he have to wait until this moment of life and death to say it? Chiyu felt wronged. Didn't I just think of it? There are too many things in my head. I have to sort them out. Tang Zheng tiptoed and rushed to the eye of the formation like an arrow. This time, the 5-clawed golden dragon did not stop him. Instead, it looked at him mockingly. This was because it believed that Tang Zheng had no way to penetrate the white light. Naturally, he would not be able to destroy this good thing. It was happy to see them work in vain. The Empyrean fairy had indeed worked for nothing. She had used all her skills, including the painting of mountains and rivers, but it was to no avail. That white light was like an indestructible barrier, protecting the multiform star sovereign with all its might. The crisp laughter of the 100 Faces star sovereign echoed around. He danced with joy. Haha, interesting, interesting. This is fun. You guys continue to watch. This is much more interesting than the days at Mount Buzhou. The 100 Transformation Star-Lord had the appearance of a child to begin with. Now that he was in such high spirits, he looked exactly like a brat. However, when they thought of his actions and abilities, no one dared to treat him as a little kid. Instead, they felt a chill in their bones. Everything he did seemed like a game to him. However, to others, it was a matter of life and death. Tang Zheng looked at the annoying 100-faces star sovereign and said, "Don't be so happy. You'll cry later." "Is that so? Then I'll wait and see." The 100-faces star sovereign laughed. "Fu Yao, move aside. I'll do it." "You'll do it?" The Empyrean fairy was shocked. She looked at him skeptically. Even she could not do anything. What could Tang Jing do? However, looking at his confident look, her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he really did have a way? She knew that at this critical moment, Tang Jing would not joke around. She moved aside and looked at Tang Jing with burning eyes. She did not know what he would do. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. The ground shook even more violently. Even the rocks above their heads were falling. However, the momentum of the imperial city's ground was even greater. With a loud bang, the ground caved in under everyone's eyes. Everyone cried out and hurriedly retreated. In an instant, a large hole appeared in the center of the imperial city. It was more than 10 meters deep. It was like a bloody mouth that wanted to devour people. What's going on? The ground caved in, the ground caved in. Number 1 stared at the big pit with a burning gaze. This confirmed his previous conjecture. It was impossible to find a dragon by digging 3 feet into the ground. There was no dragon in this big pit that was more than 10 meters deep, right? But what was going on with such a huge battle formation? Chapter 899. If a real dragon was going to come out, then, he didn't dare to think too much. He quickly hid in a corner and dialed the chief's number. This important information must be reported in time. Tian Chanzi didn't even look at him. He just stared at the crater, and his heart was in turmoil. Tang Jing, you brat, you better not let anything happen to you. I'm just worrying for nothing. He'll definitely be fine. After all, he's not weak, and he has the Empyrean fairy's protection. Even if he comforted himself like this, he still couldn't calm down. The ground was still shaking, and Tang Jing felt that the shaking was getting worse. He steadied himself and approached the light screen under the provocative eyes of the 100-faces star sovereign. He stretched out his hand. The ridicule in the 100-faces star sovereign's eyes became more obvious. Even the 5-clawed golden dragon looked at him disapprovingly. The Empyrean fairy was obviously nervous. Although she had been through hundreds of battles, she had never experienced such a thing. She was powerless. Could it be that Tang Jing had a solution? She couldn't think of what Tang Jing could do. Tang Zhang's hand touched the light screen, and a strong rebounding force immediately bounced his hand away. If he used too much force, his whole body would have been bounced away. Ha ha ha. A burst of arrogant laughter sounded. The 100-faces star sovereign mocked mercilessly, so this is your solution. Why didn't it work? Big words. Before he could finish the word shame, his throat seemed to be stuck because he saw an inconceivable and strange scene. A cold light flashed in Tang Zhang's hand. He didn't attack the light screen. Instead, he cut his wrist. Blood spurted out and sprinkled on the white light. What was he doing? Tang Zhang's eyes were extremely calm. He didn't care about the sarcasm of the 100-faces star sovereign, because he had a clear purpose in doing all this. The 100-change star sovereign could not figure out the reason no matter how hard he racked his brains. However, when he saw that there was no reaction, his expression changed, and the ridicule on his face became even stronger. He laughed wildly without concealing anything. Ha ha ha, it seems that you are at your wit's end. You are so anxious that you actually harmed yourself. Sigh, what a pity. I originally wanted to make you my toy, but it seems that I won't have the chance. The 100 Change-Star Sovereign shook his head and sighed, as if it was a pity. Tang Zheng looked straight ahead and turned a deaf ear to him. When the blood sprayed on the light curtain, he quickly stopped the bleeding. With a thought, his fingers moved and a mysterious seal appeared on his fingertips. The tip of his finger lit up with a red light that was as bright as blood. Suddenly, he pointed his finger forward. The red light shot out and landed right on top of the pool of blood, merging with the light screen. A sudden change occurred. The blood seemed to have a life of its own. It spread across the light screen, extending endlessly. It was like a spark of fire that quickly covered the entire light screen. The originally pure white light screen turned blood red, flickering with a demonic light. This change was beyond everyone's expectations. The 100 Change-Star Sovereign opened his mouth so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed in. What the hell? What was going on? The 5-clawed golden dragon also wanted to ask the same question, but an ominous premonition gradually crept into its heart. Roar! A dragon roar shook the sky, causing pain in everyone's eardrums. Stop! The 5-clawed golden dragon roared and swept its tail directly at Tang Zheng. The secret chamber was already small, and the 5-clawed golden dragon was too big. It was impossible for it to display its full power. However, the power of this attack was not small. It was enough to severely injure Tang Zheng. However, Tang Zheng did not seem to have seen it and focused on the light screen. Don't even think about it. How could the mysterious Maiden of the 9 Heavens turn a blind eye to it? Although she was also surprised by Tang Zheng's actions and did not understand the mystery behind it, there was one thing she was sure of, and that was that this might be a turning point. Otherwise, the 5-clawed golden dragon would not have made such a big fuss. The Empyrean fairy blocked the 5-clawed golden dragon. Especially in such a narrow space, she had an innate geographical advantage. The 5-clawed golden dragon could not use its attack, and it could not do anything to the Empyrean fairy. It writhed its body in anger, and the chains rattled. The 100 Change-Star Sovereign wanted to stop Tang Zheng, but he could not do anything. This was because he was trapped in the light screen and could only watch as the light screen changed. His expression became abnormally serious, and it was as if a huge rock was pressing down on his heart. Suddenly, Tang Zheng's eyes shone brightly. He roared, "Break!" Crack! A crack appeared on the light screen, then 2, 3, 10, 100. In the end, the light screen was covered with cracks like a spider's web. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was so frightened that he staggered backward and slammed into the light screen behind him. With a rumbling sound, it was like the final straw that crushed the light screen. The light screen completely collapsed and shattered into pieces. However, these fragments did not fall to the ground. Instead, they rose slowly like scarlet stars rising into the sky. The 100 Change-Star Sovereign felt an inexplicable strangeness. He even felt a little afraid. Fear. This was the biggest joke in the world. The 100 Change-Star Sovereign could actually feel fear. He could not remember how many years it had been since he last felt this way. However, there was no doubt that once he felt this way, it was not a good thing. Without hesitation, he flew backward and retreated out of the formation eye. The red light rose slowly and gathered in midair. Suddenly, Tang Zheng stretched out his hand and shouted, "Gather!" These red lights were like obedient soldiers. They quickly gathered in Tang Zheng's palm and turned into a ball of light the size of a finger. It danced in Tang Zheng's palm like a flame. What's going on? The 100 Change-Star Sovereign asked in bewilderment. Tang Zheng's lips curled into a mysterious smile. He looked at the 100 Change-Star Sovereign meaningfully and said, "You don't know. Didn't you say you were very smart? Why can't you guess?" The 100 Change-Star Sovereign's face turned red. "What did you do?" Why isn't it shaking anymore? Unknowingly, the surroundings had stopped shaking and returned to normal. Didn't this mean that the formation had failed? If the formation had been successfully broken, then this space would no longer exist in vain. Of course it's because I stopped your stupid actions, Tang Zhang said in a mocking tone. He was very pleased with himself. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Qi Yu had actually thought of a way at the last moment. This made him overjoyed. Qi Yu's method was very simple. It was to use blood as a catalyst and use a secret technique to stop the other party from breaking the formation. Of course, this blood was not ordinary blood. It had to be a sufficiently powerful bloodline. A celestial naturally had a sufficiently powerful bloodline. However, just having a powerful bloodline was not enough. It had to be accompanied by a corresponding secret technique. Qi Yu racked his brains and finally found such a secret technique in the depths of his memories. Tang Zheng had used blood as a catalyst, especially the last red light. That was not light, but blood. However, it was Qi Yu's heart's blood. This heart's blood contained Qi Yu's many years of essence, energy, and spirit. This drop of heart's blood was the brush that drew the dragon. Under the activation of the heart's blood, coupled with Tang Zheng's blood and the secret technique, all of this happened naturally. Halfway through, the formation was stopped. The 100 Change Star Sovereign would never have dreamed that this would happen. He had never thought that there would be such a secret technique. However, he did not know that Qi Yu was the leader of the Nine Li tribe. The Nine Li tribe had many secret techniques that were unknown to others. There were so many that even Qi Yu could not remember them all. Just how did you accomplish all of this? The 100 Change Star Sovereign was unwilling to give up. Why should I tell you? All you need to know is that you have failed. You have nowhere to run, said Tang Zheng with killing intent. You want me to admit defeat? Dream on. I, the 100 Change Star Sovereign, will not be defeated. You are all my puppets. How could I be defeated by my puppets? The 100 Change Star Sovereign was flustered and exasperated. Tang Zheng was just about to prepare to deal with the 100 Change Star Sovereign when the 5-clawed golden dragon's furious roar rang out from behind him. Tang Zheng, you ruined my plans. I won't let you off. Boom! The dragon's tail swept out, and that narrow door was actually shattered. The dragon's tail swept straight in, sweeping towards Tang Zheng. Impudent! The Empyrean fairy sternly shouted. The 5-clawed golden dragon actually ignored her existence. Thus, she once more attacked at lightning speed, clashing with the 5-clawed golden dragon. The words heaven and earth turned upside down were not enough to describe the battle between the two. Fortunately, this was a foreign space. Otherwise, the shock waves would have spread far and wide. Tang Zheng did not have the time to pay attention to the 5-clawed golden dragon. He was still digesting what he had obtained. Just now, that drop of bright red light in his palm was Qi Yu's heart blood. The heart blood seeped out from his palm, following the blood vessels all the way to Qi Yu's heart. Wherever it passed, Tang Zheng felt a huge amount of energy seeping into his blood. Then, it flowed throughout his body, entering his 8 extraordinary meridians, limbs, and bones. Tang Zheng was shocked. This Qi Yu's heart blood was really powerful. Moreover, it was mixed with the light screen of the array. Its power was not to be underestimated. Although he had Qi Yu's heart, he had never discovered Qi Yu's heart blood. He did not even know about this matter. Qi Yu's heart, other than maintaining his heartbeat and body skills, was not very important to him. However, it was obvious that he had neglected it. Or rather, Qi Yu could hide it and deceive him. How much more is Qi Yu hiding from me? At that time, he was hiding in my body silently. Just like the inner demon said, he must have had some kind of intention for my body. This Qi Yu's heart must be very important. That was why he repeatedly told him to return it to him after using it. He also said that if the heart blood did not return to Chi-Yu's heart, his heart would stop beating and he would die. But now, Tang Jing felt the powerful energy in this drop of heart blood and gradually had a different idea. Was Chi-Yu deceiving him? If the heart blood absorbed the energy of the light screen and returned to his heart, would there be any unexpected changes or consequences? He could clearly feel that after the heart blood absorbed the energy of the light screen, it was stronger than before. If it entered his heart, wouldn't it be Chi-Yu's heart that was stronger? His heartstrings trembled. Although Chi-Yu could not make any big waves because of the checks and balances of the inner demons, if he had this drop of heart blood, would he become stronger, or even take over his body? Chapter 900. Tang Zhang's heart was in turmoil. He could clearly feel that the blood essence was moving towards Chi-Yu's heart. The blood essence had not yet returned to Chi-Yu's heart and was still under his control. If it returned, it would be too late. Let's take a gamble. Chi-Yu definitely did not have any good intentions. This kind of old fox who had lived for tens of thousands of years was shrewd and astute. Tang Jing knew that he was not his opponent at all. If he was careless, he would fall into his trap. At that time, he might even be sold off and help him count the money. Tang Jing hurriedly circulated his energy, causing the blood in his heart to stop moving. Suddenly, it changed direction and moved in another direction. Chi-Yu was shocked and shouted, "Tang Jing, what are you doing?" "Nothing." Tang Jing coldly replied. Chi-Yu was not an idiot. He immediately saw through Tang Zhang's intentions. You don't want the blood essence to return to your heart. This blood essence is so useful. I think it's more useful if it stays in your heart. Tang Jing said. No, you're wrong. If the blood essence stays outside your heart, then your strength will be greatly reduced. Tang Jing snorted. Is that so? Why don't I feel it now? Chi-Yu was startled. He paused and said, It's still too short, so it hasn't appeared yet. When it does, it will be too late. I'm not afraid. This is my body, not yours. Why are you so anxious? I'm thinking for you. After all, I'm in your body. We're in the same boat. Chi-Yu said earnestly and anxiously. Tang Zhang was still indifferent. The more anxious Chi-Yu was, the calmer Tang Jing was. He had never seen Chi-Yu so sad about something before. Even when the 100 Changes Star Lord was about to break the array, he was not so anxious. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Tang Jing felt that he must have guessed correctly. As expected, Chi-Yu was up to no good. He couldn't help but feel a bit of lingering fear. His back was drenched in cold sweat. If he hadn't overthought things and allowed his blood to return to his heart, then everything would have been too late. The two people living in his body were not ordinary people. It was as if he was walking on thin ice. He had to be careful with every step. Close call. It was too dangerous. However, Tang Jing didn't expose them. Both sides maintained a superficial balance. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for anyone if they fought to the death. Since the heart blood was so important, it would be better for him to control it and balance Chi-Yu. This was more advantageous than letting the inner demons restrain him. After all, the initiative was in his hands. With a thought, Tang Jing directed his blood to move towards his dantian. What do you want now? Chi-Yu asked. I have to find a place for my blood to stay. My dantian is a good place. I'll leave it here for the time being. After Tang Jing finished speaking, the blood came to his dantian. Under the golden light, the blood was still bright red. It wasn't affected by the golden light. However, the golden pellets suddenly started to rotate, and all the energy in his dantian started to gather towards it. Especially the blood in his heart, there were traces of faint red light floating out. After fusing with the golden pellet, Tang Jing clearly felt that his true qi was slowly rising up. What are you doing? Stop it. Stop it. Qiyu roared as if he was about to lose his life. His voice was almost changing. If he had a face, he would have seen that his face was deformed. Why are you shouting again? Tang Zheng was unmoved. Instead, he asked indifferently. What are you doing? Qiyu was so anxious that his voice was hoarse. Nothing. Nothing yet. Your golden elixir is absorbing the energy of the blood. Oh, is that so? What's there to be surprised about? Since there's enough energy in the blood, it's not a big deal to add a little to the golden elixir. After all, they're all part of my body. We help and love each other. Tang Jing said calmly as if he was used to it. Qiyu really wanted to say that the blood was his, not his, okay? But he really didn't dare to say it. If he said it so openly, there would be a danger of falling out. Moreover, the blood was in Tang Zhang's hands now. He couldn't do anything. He never thought that it would be such a result. Previously, when Tang Jing kept urging him to stop, he had a little idea. Qiyu was a 10,000-year-old fox. He was brave and smart. He had crossed more bridges than Tang Jing. With a little thought, he came up with a brilliant idea. This idea could solve the crisis in front of him and prevent the 100 Faces Star Lord from breaking the formation. It could also benefit him endlessly and even change from passive to active. He took the initiative to offer his blood to help Tang Jing resolve the crisis. What was the blood? This was the source of power for Qiyu's heart. It was the core of Qiyu's heart. It was the key to the survival of Qiyu's soul. Losing the blood was definitely a devastating blow to him. Although it wouldn't immediately cause his soul to scatter, he would never be able to possess another body and be reborn. He had always hidden the blood very well. Tang Jing had probed Qiyu's heart countless times, but he didn't find it. When the blood absorbed the energy in the light screen, the energy contained in the blood would be very strong. When it returned to his heart, Qiyu's soul would also become very strong. In time, he would be able to surpass Tang Jing, take over the host, and be reborn. This was Qiyu's plan that he thought was flawless. With Tang Zhang's experience, he definitely wouldn't be able to see through it. Moreover, at this critical moment, Tang Jing definitely wouldn't think too much about it. Then, he could complete all of this without anyone noticing. However, things didn't go as he wished. He never expected that Tang Jing would think one more step after sensing the surging energy in the blood. Just this one small step caused him to lose the entire game. He lost completely. Once the blood left Qiyu's heart and entered Tang Zhang's body, it naturally wouldn't be under Qiyu's control. This was also why he never dared to take out the blood easily. There were too many unknown variables. He was always hunting geese, but he was pecked in the eye by the geese. Qiyu suffered in silence. He couldn't speak of his bitterness. He hated it. Why was he so stupid? Why did he come up with such a stupid idea that he thought was perfect, but in fact, it was extremely bad? Moreover, he couldn't say it out loud. Qiyu's heart was bleeding as he watched his gold core absorb the energy in the blood. It was like a blunt knife stabbing into his heart and gouging out large chunks of flesh. Tang Jing didn't care whether Qiyu's heart was bleeding or not. In any case, he had already confirmed that Qiyu really didn't have good intentions. One of his feet had already stepped off the cliff, and he almost fell down and shattered his bones. One shouldn't have the intention to harm others, but one should always be on guard against others. This sentence wasn't deceiving him. If Qiyu didn't want to harm him, he wouldn't have gone for wool and come home shorn. As for absorbing the energy in the blood, Tang Jing didn't feel burdened. However, the energy contained in the blood was very strong. He couldn't absorb it all in a short time. At this moment, he had already absorbed enough energy. It was even more than the energy in the crystal. True qi rushed up and overturned rivers and seas. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and bloomed with joy. Ah, my cultivation has broken through again. I've reached the 8th stage of the gold core realm. It's really a blessing in disguise. Tangjing, you're absorbing my blood to improve your cultivation. Qiyu wanted to die and asked hoarsely. Why can't I? This is my blood. Didn't I say it before? You're in my body. What's yours is mine. You and I are in the same body. Why are you so clear about it? Tang Zhang's words almost made Qiyu vomit blood. However, he didn't give up. Qiyu wanted to trick him. He couldn't encourage this evil trend, so he immediately released the inner demons. Although the inner demons couldn't speak, they were watching coldly from the sidelines. They had already seen everything clearly. Immediately, they couldn't help but laugh wildly. Ha ha ha, Qiyu, you also have a day like this. How about it? You still want to trick Tangjing. Now you know what it's like. The inner demons saw through Qiyu's thoughts clearly. Qiyu didn't admit it. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm helping him. The inner demon snorted. Do you really think that other than yourself, everyone in the world is a fool? The inner demons changed the topic and began to flatter Tangjing. Young man, you're really smart. You saw through his sinister intentions at a glance. Hee, let me tell you, this blood is very useful. After you absorb its energy, your cultivation will increase. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't say a word. The inner demons continued, you and Qiyu are in a state of rising and falling. The more energy you absorb from the blood, the weaker his strength will be. Don't you think this is a good thing? Tang Zheng was overjoyed. This was, of course, a good thing. Tang Zheng, don't listen to the inner demon's nonsense. He's setting a trap for us. He's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Once my strength decreases, he'll gain the upper hand. Won't you be in danger? You have to be on guard against his evil intentions. He's not a kind person. Qiyu hurriedly reminded. Tang Zheng's heart sank. These 2 old foxes were indeed not easy to deal with. Every word was a trap. They were digging a hole for him to jump into. Fortunately, there were 2 checks and balances. If there was only one, it would be a tragedy for him. It seemed that although the blood was good, it couldn't absorb too much energy. Otherwise, Qiyu's strength would be too weak. In the future, he would be suppressed by the inner demons. Then, there would be no way to keep him in check. However, it shouldn't hurt to absorb a little energy occasionally. After all, Qiyu was so powerful. A little energy leaked out from under his fingernails would be enough for Tang Zheng to digest slowly. Young man, don't listen to Qiyu's nonsense. I'm doing this for your own good. Say, when your cultivation is powerful, will you still have to worry about the 100 Faces Star-Lord in the future? You can crush him with 1 finger. Strength is the most important thing. The inner demon said earnestly. Tang Zheng snorted. Strength was the most important thing. His life was the most important thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to enjoy it even if he had strength. Inner demon, do you think you can hide your vicious thoughts with your flowery words? Tang Zheng isn't a fool. He won't be deceived by you. Qiyu retorted. The inner demons wanted to refute again. Tang Zheng couldn't stand it anymore. He shouted at them to shut up. Immediately, the 2 couldn't even let out a fart. Chapter 901. The 100-change star sovereign looked at Tang Zheng in shock. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation had broken through again. This was too strange. Tang Zheng's attention shifted from the heart blood to the outside world. He saw the Empyrean fairy and the 5-clawed golden dragon fighting intensely. Thus, his gaze landed on the 100 Change Star Sovereign. The 100 Change Star Sovereign snorted and said, "Tang Jing, how did you do all this?" Tang Jing smiled faintly. "Just because you can't do it doesn't mean that I can't do it. Didn't you say that Skywalkers are nothing special?" The 100 Change Star Sovereign knew that he had been slapped in the face. He blushed and said, "You can stop me once, but can you stop me a second time? Then we can give it a try." Tang Zhang's victory was in his hands. It was not that he was arrogant, but at this moment, he was no longer afraid of the 100 Change Star Sovereign. Why? Because Qi Yu's method had another miraculous effect, and that was that the heart blood absorbed the energy of the formation, and the heart blood could control the formation. If Tang Jing could control the heart blood, then he could naturally control the formation. This was the key. Although he could not control the formation to let the 5-clawed golden dragon go, whoever wanted to break the formation would have to go through him. This was thousands of times more difficult than the original method. Even the 100 Change Star Sovereign could forget about breaking the formation. If he wanted to break the formation, he would have to rely on Tang Jing. Tang Jing still had some lingering fear. If the heart blood returned to the heart, then Qi Yu would be able to control the formation. Perhaps even the 5-clawed golden dragon would not be able to escape from his grasp. It was truly a good plan. Unfortunately, Tang Jing intercepted him halfway, causing his plan to fail. The 100 Change Star Sovereign did not know this, but he did not plan to break the formation immediately. Otherwise, if Tang Jing destroyed it again, wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Thus, he flashed and attacked Tang Jing. He roared, "It won't be too late to break the formation after I kill you first." Although Tang Jing had a breakthrough in his cultivation, there was still a world of difference between him and the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. However, he did not back down. He waved his hand and shot out a shooting sun arrow. Now that he had 9 arrows in hand, his confidence was greatly boosted. Whoosh, 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 he shot 3 arrows in succession. The 100 Transformation Star Sovereign had no choice but to dodge, and his attacks were greatly reduced. The shooting sun arrow was nailed to the wall, and its feathers were still trembling. Tang Jing did not stop. He continuously shot out the remaining 5 shooting sun arrows. The 5 shooting sun arrows formed a front and back formation. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign did the same in an attempt to dodge the shooting sun arrow. And indeed, he did. The shooting sun arrow shot towards the wall. The 100 Change Star Sovereign smiled proudly and said, "Do you still have arrows? Let's see what other tricks you have up your sleeve." Tang Zhang's expression changed slightly. The 8 shooting sun arrows had not injured the 100 Change Star Sovereign at all. The difference in strength between the two was too great. If I wasn't in the ghost realm and lost 1 shooting sun arrow, I would gather 9 shooting sun arrows. The power would definitely be stronger, and I would definitely not let the 100 Faces Star Sovereign off so easily. Tang Zhang was very regretful. Seeing the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's attack in front of him, he calmly raised the war soul and stabbed out. The Empyrean Fairy had been silently paying attention to Tang Jing. Seeing him fighting against the 100 Faces Star Sovereign alone, she quickly shouted, "Tang Jing, be careful. Leave first, I will hold them back. Don't worry, I won't leave you behind." Tang Jing used the heaven-flying immortal sword technique and fought against the 100 Faces Star Sovereign. He now realized a problem. Although the heaven-flying immortal sword technique was powerful, it seemed to be a little difficult to deal with opponents who were getting more and more powerful. His top priority was to cultivate a more powerful sword technique or other techniques. Of course, he could only rely on the Langya Pavilion to achieve this goal. Now that he had painstaking efforts, he was confident that he could make a breakthrough in the Dragon God technique and reach a higher level in the Langya Pavilion. Hearing Tang Zhang's words, the 100 Faces Star Sovereign laughed. "Ha, you have guts. Let's see if you still have this kind of courage when you're about to die." The Empyrean fairy was extremely anxious. It was easy for her to leave. Even the 5-clawed golden dragon and the 100-faces star sovereign could not stop her. But Tang Zheng was determined to stay, so she had no way to leave. "Let's go, I'll bring up the rear," she urged again. Tang Zheng was indifferent and said, "If we just leave like this, won't they be very happy? If the enemy is happy, I will be very unhappy." "You." The Empyrean fairy was speechless and glared at him fiercely. Tang Zheng retreated to the side and said, "Actually, we don't need to fight. Isn't he going to break the formation? Just let him break it. We'll witness it with our own eyes, hee." The Empyrean fairy was extremely intelligent and heard the hidden meaning in his words. She asked suspiciously, "What do you mean?" "I said that there's no need to fight. What's the point of making such a big fuss? It's just a waste of true qi." Tang Zheng narrowly avoided the 100-faces star sovereign's attack and retreated to the Empyrean fairy's side. The Empyrean fairy looked at him skeptically and asked, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Tang Zheng put away the war soul sword. The 100-faces star sovereign attacked again, but was blocked by the Empyrean fairy. The 100-faces star sovereign had no choice but to retreat. His expression was cold as he said, "Tang Zheng, do you really want me to break the formation again?" "Of course, this time I'll just stand by and watch. I definitely won't make a move. I just want to see how you break the formation." Tang Zheng crossed his arms and said calmly, "What exactly are you selling in your gourd?" the 100-faces star sovereign asked. Tang Zheng smiled and did not answer. The 5-clawed golden dragon impatiently urged, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? Since that's the case, then hurry up and break the formation. When I get out, they won't be a problem at all." The 100-faces star sovereign felt a little uneasy. Tang Zheng's reaction was too unusual, but he couldn't figure out what the problem was. Since that's the case, then I'll fulfill your wish. But don't regret it later," the 100-faces star sovereign said fiercely. "I won't regret it. Please do as you wish." The Empyrean fairy knew that Tang Zheng wouldn't do anything unprepared. She quietly poked Tang Zheng's arm and asked in a low voice, "What exactly do you want to do? Pay attention. You'll know in a while." Tang Zheng purposely kept her in suspense. The Empyrean fairy was helpless. She rolled her eyes at him. She could only wait and see for the time being. However, she didn't relax her vigilance. If the situation was not right, she would definitely not stand idly by. The 100-faces star sovereign's big black eyes rolled as he thoughtfully looked at Tang Zheng. His eyes lit up and the corners of his mouth raised into a smile as he said, "You want to use the same trick again, right? I won't give you the chance." This time, he didn't stand in the center of the formation. Instead, he stood outside the formation. "Break the formation." A pure white energy rose from the ground, and the white light screen appeared again. The Empyrean fairy's heart tightened. Her arms were straight, ready to attack at any time. Tang Zheng faintly smiled, "Don't be nervous. I know what I'm doing." The Empyrean fairy really wanted to ask him what he was thinking. The other party was the 100-faces star sovereign, not some random cat or dog. If he succeeded, then not to mention Tang Zheng, even she wouldn't be able to do anything. However, Tang Zheng had a confident look on his face. It was as if he didn't see her worry at all. The 5-clawed golden dragon opened his eyes wide and excitedly twisted his body. Especially when he saw the light curtain, his eyes erupted with a terrifying light. It was as if the door to freedom was slowly opening for him. Boom, boom, boom. The earth seemed to tremble again. The 100-faces star sovereign proudly turned around to look at Tang Zheng and said, "This time I'm outside the formation. If you want to cause trouble, I can easily stop you. Let's see what you can do then." Ha, this is what you asked for. So, I'll let you see with your own eyes that I successfully break the formation. This way, you can die in peace. Tang Zheng took a step forward and said, "Who said I would die? After breaking the formation, you will die without a doubt." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign said decisively. Tang Zheng snorted coldly. "Who said you would succeed? Even if you want to interfere, you can't do anything. With me here, you can't do anything." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign also took a step forward and closed the distance between him and Tang Zheng. His jade-like face was filled with experience and spiciness that didn't match his appearance. It was also filled with a sense of ridicule. "Is that so?" Tang Zheng said lightly. He casually pointed at the light curtain and asked, "Then look behind you. What's going on?" The 100 Faces Star Sovereign laughed loudly. "You want to use this kind of trick to trick a 3-year-old child to trick me? What will happen behind me? Nothing will happen." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign was so confident that it was as if he had eyes on the back of his head. "Tang Zheng, what did you do?" The 5-clawed golden dragon roared in shock, staring at the eye of the formation in disbelief. Seeing this, the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's heart skipped a beat. He had an ominous premonition. Could it be that something really happened behind him? Otherwise, why would the 5-clawed golden dragon have such a big reaction? He couldn't care less about ridiculing Tang Zheng anymore. He suddenly turned around. "Ah!" Suddenly, his mouth opened so wide that a duck egg could be stuffed into it. The light curtain was actually retreating back to the ground bit by bit, and the shaking was getting weaker and weaker. In the blink of an eye, the light curtain disappeared from the ground and everything returned to normal. The formation had failed. The 100 Transformation Star Lord acted as if he had seen a ghost as he shouted, "Tang Zheng, what did you do? Didn't you tell me not to do anything?" "I didn't do anything." Tang Zheng raised his hands and said with a smile. "You're lying to a child. You didn't do anything." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign said angrily. "Aren't you a child?" "I'm not a child. I'm the 100 Faces Star Sovereign." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign roared and pointed at Tang Zheng. He was flustered and exasperated. "What did you do?" The Empyrean Fairy and the 5-clawed golden dragon also looked at Tang Zheng. It turned out that he already had a way to make sure that the 100 Faces Star Sovereign couldn't break the formation. That was why he was so confident. In fact, this was also an experiment for Tang Zheng. Although Qiyu had always said that he could control the formation, there was no proof. Moreover, Qiyu was always talking nonsense. He didn't know whether what he said was true or not, so it was best to put it into practice. He didn't expect the practice to be so successful. He immediately had a kind of connection with the formation when he controlled the heart's blood and took control of the formation. Chapter 902. Looking at the 100 Faces Star Sovereign's bewildered expression, Tang Zheng finally revealed the answer. "I have already controlled this great array, so of course you can't break it." "What? You controlled this great array?" Not only the 100 Faces Star Sovereign, but even the Empyrean Fairy and the 5-clawed golden dragon exclaimed in disbelief. Exactly. Tang Zheng had already expected their reaction and was not surprised. "How did you do it?" This time it was the 5-clawed golden dragon who asked. It had been imprisoned by this great array for hundreds of years, so of course it knew how powerful it was. It could not understand. It had tried so hard for so many years but still failed to break the array, but Tang Zheng actually had a way to control it. This was not scientific. Tang Zheng glanced at the 5-clawed golden dragon and could guess its thoughts. It had probably fallen from the clouds into the abyss. The 5-clawed golden dragon did not hesitate to fall out with Tang Zheng and even fought because it thought that it could regain its freedom without Tang Zheng's help. But now all of this was like a bubble that burst with a pop, not leaving any hope for it. Tang Jing said, "Just now when I stopped the 100 Faces Star Sovereign from breaking the array, I did it. Otherwise, do you really think that my blood was spilled for nothing? No, I have never heard of this kind of magic." The 100 Faces Star Sovereign shook its head like a rattle drum. "You don't know, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist." Tang Jing said jokingly. "Do you know what kind of array this is? You dare to boast that you controlled the Great Array?" The 5-clawed golden dragon said indignantly. "Of course I know." In the past, Tang Jing did not know, but after he controlled the formation, he knew everything about it clearly. Furthermore, he knew how to set up this formation now. This great array was called the Heaven and Earth Soul Suppressing Array. It used the Heaven and Earth's fate and the Heaven and Earth Profound Stone as the eye of the array. This kind of array was enough to suppress countless vengeful spirits and ghosts. With the addition of the Heaven and Earth Profound Stone, even the 5-clawed golden dragon was no exception. Of course, there was a drawback to this formation, and that was that the stronger the formation was, the more karmic luck it had to gather. Suppressing the 5-clawed golden dragon naturally required a lot of luck, so the luck of heaven and earth changed drastically. When the destiny of heaven and earth changed, the country was naturally affected. Later on, the destiny of that dynasty became worse and worse, and it was even invaded by the foreign tribes. The cultivators were expelled and then ruled by the foreign tribes for hundreds of years. Then, foreign enemies invaded and ravaged the land, turning Huaxia into a sea of corpses. All of this had to do with the Heaven and Earth Soul Suppressing Array. If not for this array, perhaps Huaxia's landscape would be completely different. It could be said that in order to absorb the dragon qi, the emperor did a foolish thing that did more harm than good and caused hundreds of years of harm. For the sake of his own interests, he didn't care about Huaxia. If the array was broken, Huaxia's karmic luck wouldn't continue to be absorbed by the array. Then, Huaxia's karmic luck would undergo a tremendous change. Perhaps it would rise again and stand at the highest peak of the world. However, even so, Tang Jing wouldn't break the array easily and let the 5-clawed golden dragon out. With its current temper, it wouldn't be Huaxia's karmic luck, but a catastrophe. "You actually know the information about this array." Seeing Tang Jing's confident expression, the 5-clawed golden dragon found it unbelievable. It gradually believed that Tang Jing really controlled this array. It was filled with sorrow, and its eyes became dim. Although the 100-change Star Lord didn't know what the array was, he knew that it was over when he saw the 5-clawed golden dragon's reaction. He was unwilling. He had put in so much effort and even sacrificed Orochi. Success was in sight, but it was ruined by Tang Jing. Was there any justice in this? However, no matter how he thought, there was no way to change the situation. The situation was not good, and the best strategy was to escape. Whoosh! He moved his feet and directly rushed into the tunnel, disappearing in the blink of an eye. You want to escape? It's not that easy. Tang Jing controlled the array. With a thought, a terrifying force gathered from all directions toward the 100-change Star Lord. The 100-change Star Lord hurriedly cast a spell, trying to break through the array and leave this damned place. However, his expression changed as he realized that it was easy to get in but difficult to get out. Feeling the terrifying power coming from all directions, his heart was burning with anxiety. He cut his finger, and his finger was dyed red with blood. He drew a series of strange runes in the void. Break! He disappeared on the spot and returned to the imperial city. However, when his feet landed on the ground, puff! He spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly turned pale. Obviously, he had exhausted a lot of energy in order to escape from the array. Moreover, the overwhelming force was enough to make him suffer. He was injured by Tang Jing. This was something he had never expected, but it happened just like that. Although Tang Jing relied on the power of the array, he had seriously injured him. He was angry and resentful, but now was not the time to be resentful. He had to leave before his opponent caught up. The appearance of the 100-change Star Lord attracted everyone's attention. Many people guessed that the huge commotion in the capital had something to do with these people who had disappeared, especially the light that rushed into the sky, which was even more frightening. At this moment, the light had disappeared, and the ground had stopped shaking. Seeing the person involved, many people's nerves were straight. Tian Chanzi panicked when he saw the 100-change Star Lord. Could it be that Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy had encountered some accident below? Before he could ask, he saw the 100-transformation Star Sovereign soar into the sky as if his life depended on it, flying into the distance. When he reacted, the other party had disappeared. The 100-change Star Lord was an expert after all. Although he was injured, he was still not someone Tian Chanzi could catch up with. At this moment, the Empyrean Fairy also caught up and asked, "Where is the 100-change Star Lord?" When he saw the valiant and heroic Empyrean Fairy, Tian Chanzi immediately calmed down. The panic in his heart also disappeared. He hurriedly asked, "He escaped. What happened? Where is Tang Zheng?" "Escaped." The Empyrean Fairy looked up at the dark sky. Even the stars could not be seen, let alone the 100-change Star Lord. She stomped her foot fiercely. It was a pity that the 100-change Star Lord had escaped. However, this kind of expert was very difficult to get rid of, so it was not a surprise. Tian Chanzi wanted to ask more, but the Empyrean Fairy said indifferently, "Tang Zheng is fine." Then she turned around and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. At this point, there was no need to hide. She might as well be honest. The Empyrean Fairy returned mainly because she was worried about Tang Zheng's safety. After all, he and the 5-clawed golden dragon had turned against each other. If he was left alone, the 5-clawed golden dragon would go crazy and hurt him. However, when she arrived at the hall, she found Tang Zheng standing in front of the 5-clawed golden dragon safe and sound. The 5-clawed golden dragon's head was drooping. It was a veritable general of a defeated army. Tang Zheng looked at the 5-clawed golden dragon coldly. An invisible pressure spread out, and even the dragon chi in his body involuntarily leaked out. The Empyrean Fairy saw this scene and her heart skipped a beat, but she did not say anything. 5-clawed golden dragon, now that the 100-change Star Lord has escaped, your hope of regaining freedom has been shattered. How do you feel? Tang Zheng asked. The 5-clawed golden dragon did not dare to look at Tang Zheng's eyes. It lowered its head and did not say a word. "Speak. Are you mute?" Tang Zheng roared angrily. The 5-clawed golden dragon finally raised its head and looked at Tang Zheng unwillingly. Although its dragon chi was still there, its momentum was completely gone. After hesitating for a long time, it finally squeezed out 4 words, "You're good." "I'm good. I almost died at the hands of you and the 100-change Star Lord." Tang Zheng laughed self-deprecatingly, 5-clawed golden dragon, you broke our agreement without permission. What do you think I should do? Can you still kill me? The 5-clawed golden dragon asked. Of course I can't kill you. It's not easy to slay a dragon. I don't have that ability. Tang Zheng told the truth. Even if it was the Empyrean Fairy, it would not be easy to kill the 5-clawed golden dragon. After all, the other party was a dragon. Although I can't kill you, I can imprison you for generations to come. Thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, 100,000 years. Until you die of old age. Tang Zheng's tone was very calm, but it made the 5-clawed golden dragon tremble. The reason why it wanted to go out was because of its desire for freedom. It did not want to be imprisoned until it died. There was no doubt that these words hit its weak spot. Moreover, it couldn't do anything to Tang Zheng. If it really killed him, then the array formation would be under Tang Zheng's control. He could completely make it so that no one else would be able to find this array formation, let alone break the array formation and release it. The five-clawed golden dragon knew this too well. Therefore, even if Tang Jing was standing in front of it and it was unable to restrain its anger, it did not dare to do anything to Tang Jing. "What do you want?" The five-clawed golden dragon asked helplessly, its aura weakening a little. Tang Jing's eyes flickered, and a bold idea came to his mind, to make the five-clawed golden dragon submit to him. Make a dragon submit? Wasn't that bold? It was simply crazy. Since ancient times, many emperors had considered themselves as the true dragon, the son of heaven. However, that was only to deceive the common people. No one had ever made a dragon submit to them. Even the emperor who had built this imperial city back then had not been able to do so. Tang Jing wanted to create a precedent and make the five-clawed golden dragon submit. If other people knew, they would definitely say that he was delusional. This was simply impossible. However, Tang Jing liked to challenge the impossible. He had encountered too many impossibilities along the way, but through hard work, he could always find a way to solve them. Now that he had the initiative and had the advantage, he did not believe that he could not do this. The Empyrean fairy looked at him without blinking. She could not guess his thoughts. Of course, if she knew, she would probably be shocked. Tang Jing took a deep breath and encouraged himself. He coldly looked at the five-clawed golden dragon. It was a little overwhelmed by this gaze and hurriedly said, "What do you want?" "I want you to submit to me. From now on, you will only listen to my orders." Tang Jing pointed at the five-clawed golden dragon and said without stopping. Chapter 903. The Empyrean fairy thought she had misheard and looked at Tang Jing suspiciously. However, seeing his serious expression, it turned out that she had not misheard. He really did want the five-clawed golden dragon to submit to him. This. She was at a loss for words. She could not find a word to describe this action. It seemed that any word would be pale and powerless. Her heart beat wildly. How could he dare to have such an idea? But when she thought about the huge gains that would follow if he really succeeded, she could not help but feel excited. With a dragon submitting to him, his strength would naturally soar. If the five-clawed golden dragon escaped, she was afraid that even she would not be able to do anything to Tang Jing. She could not help but admire Tang Jing's courage. Taking risks in chess, the gains were proportional to the risks. The five-clawed golden dragon's originally large eyes widened even more as it stared straight at Tang Jing. A soul-stirring dragon's might slowly accumulated and climbed. In the end, it accumulated to a peak. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down, causing people to be unable to breathe. Even the Empyrean fairy felt as if a stone was pressing down on her chest. From this, it could be seen how angry the five-clawed golden dragon was. On the other hand, although Tang Jing's expression was somewhat ugly, he still did not shrink back and bitterly held on. "You are insulting me, insulting the dragon clan." The five-clawed golden dragon finally opened its mouth, but its voice was like rolling thunder, exploding in the hall. The air violently fluctuated as if it was about to boil. The anger of a true dragon was extraordinary. Tang Jing was like a small boat in the storm, allowing the stormy waves to hit him. He floated and sank, but was not overturned by the huge waves. He resisted the huge pressure and looked indifferently at the five-clawed golden dragon, saying, "I did not insult the dragon clan." The implication was that he had insulted the dragon, but what could the dragon do to him? Dragons were high and mighty existences. They were arrogant by nature and looked down on everything. The five-clawed golden dragon was no exception. But now it was being openly provoked and insulted by Tang Jing. This was equivalent to ruthlessly stepping on it. Too vile. This was the effect that Tang Jing wanted. The five-clawed golden dragon was too arrogant. If he didn't completely trample it under his feet, it would never truly submit. These words fanned the flames of anger in the five-clawed golden dragon's heart. With a heaven-shaking dragon roar, it opened its mouth wide and dove down towards Tang Jing. The strong dragon breath blew up a whirlwind, blowing Tang Jing left and right, but his legs seemed to be rooted, and he did not move an inch. "I'm going to eat you," the five-clawed golden dragon roared. "Eat me, and you will be imprisoned here forever, never to see the light of day," Tang Jing said lightly. The five-clawed golden dragon looked as if it was struck by lightning. Its mouth stopped right in front of Tang Jing. Its dragon breath blew away Tang Jing's hair, and its dragon whiskers directly stuck to Tang Jing's cheek. Tang Jing didn't even blink as he circulated the dragon god technique. Dragon's might gradually spread out, neutralizing the opponent's overwhelming aura. "Imprisoned here forever, never to see the light of day." These words echoed in the five-clawed golden dragon's mind like a curse, causing it to shudder. Although it was high and mighty, it was still afraid. This was what it was most afraid of right now. It was already afraid of being imprisoned. Tang Jing's eyes gradually revealed a trace of a smile. He had made the right bet. The five-clawed golden dragon's reaction made him very satisfied. He wanted to add more fuel to the fire. "If you submit to me, I promise to save you." "Impossible. How can my dragon race submit to you humans?" the five-clawed golden dragon retorted loudly. "Human? Hee, I cultivate the dragon god technique. Didn't you always say that I'm not human?" Tang Jing found a reason for the other party, allowing its brain to turn around, which was equivalent to giving it a way out. Dragon god technique. When the Empyrean fairy heard this, her eyelids twitched. She knew that the dragon race had many secrets and many mysterious techniques. Without a doubt, this dragon god technique was probably one of them. Tang Jing actually cultivated the dragon god technique. No wonder the dragon chi and dragon's might involuntarily spread out just now. This was a secret she had never known. She thought to herself that Tang Jing really hid it well. She was actually very curious about the dragon race like the 100-change Star Lord. After all, humans knew very little about this race. The less they knew, the more mysterious they were. It was precisely because of this that humans worshipped them as spiritual totems. The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes flickered, as if it was thinking about Tang Jing's words. When Tang Jing cultivated the dragon seal, it once said that Tang Jing didn't look like a human, but a dragon. Because, it had never heard of a human being able to cultivate the dragon seal. Of course, this was also related to the fact that the dragon god technique was rarely taught to outsiders. When the five-clawed golden dragon taught Tang Jing the dragon god technique, it never thought that he would be able to cultivate the dragon seal and reach the Langya Pavilion. At that time, it just wanted to raise Tang Jing's cultivation. After all, the dragon god technique was very mysterious. If cultivated properly, it could indeed raise one's cultivation. However, the dragon god technique was definitely not the core technique of the dragon race. That was why it dared to teach Tang Jing. "You really don't look like a human in many ways," the five-clawed golden dragon said. This was exactly the same as what Tian Chanzi once said. Then it settled. "Why can't you submit to a dragon?" Tang Jing asked back. In the dragon race, the strong were respected. The weak submitting to the strong was a matter of course. But this matter seemed to be a little different. First of all, Tang Jing's strength couldn't be compared to the five-clawed golden dragon. This was the strong submitting to the weak. Secondly, although Tang Jing said that he was equivalent to a dragon, looking left and right, other than the dragon seal, he didn't look like a dragon at all. He was simply a human. He was obviously deliberately confusing it. The five-clawed golden dragon didn't fall for it. It refused without hesitation, "In your dreams. I will never submit to you." Tang Jing frowned. What a stubborn person. "Since you don't want to listen to me, I can only use force. Tang Zhang's face gradually became gloomy. It was like 10,000-year-old ice. It was so cold that it made people's hearts tremble. The five-clawed golden dragon's heart jumped. What was he going to do? But then it thought that with its own strength, it couldn't do anything to it. It snorted disdainfully. The Empyrean fairy was also very curious about what other tricks Tang Zhang had. She stared at him with eyes full of splendor. She had to admit that she got to know Tang Zhang again. She had a strong feeling of anticipation for what would happen next. Let's see how long you can be stubborn. With a thought, Tang Zhang caused a slight change in the space around him, causing ripples to appear one after another. At the same time, the chains on the five-clawed golden dragon's claws began to glow. The dark light even covered the golden light of the dragon's scales. What are you doing? The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes twitched wildly and asked anxiously. You'll know in a while. Tang Zhang smiled mysteriously and hurriedly activated the heaven and earth soul-suppressing formation. The light of the chains became more and more intense. Roar! Suddenly, a dragon's roar burst out from the five-clawed golden dragon's throat. It shook the sky. This dragon's roar was mixed with pain. It was a bone-deep pain. Tang Zhang and the Empyrean fairy both felt it. Tang Zhang was as hard as iron. He endured it and wasn't affected. The Empyrean fairy's eyes were full of splendor. She stared at the chains and wondered how Tang Zhang did it. The five-clawed golden dragon roared, "What are you doing? Stop it." Tang Zhang was unmoved and asked lightly, "You don't know what the chains on your dragon claws are, do you?" The five-clawed golden dragon really didn't know. It tried many times but couldn't break free from the chains. What is it? It's made of 9 serenities dark iron. What? 9 serenities dark iron. The five-clawed golden dragon and the Empyrean fairy exclaimed at the same time. They knew very well what the 9 serenities dark iron was, but they had never seen it with their own eyes. It was said that the 9 serenities dark iron was a dark iron taken from the 9 serenities of the ghost realm. It was born from the yin qi of the ghost realm. If it was made into a magic weapon, it would definitely be an unprecedented magic weapon. It was impervious to water and fire and extremely difficult to destroy. No one would have thought that someone would use this kind of dark iron to make a chain to bind the five-clawed golden dragon. It was too wasteful. Tang Zhang didn't know what the 9 serenities dark iron was before. After he controlled the heaven and earth soul-suppressing formation, he knew about the 5 chains that were integrated with the formation. When he heard the words, 9 serenities dark iron, he didn't have much of a reaction, but the inner demons immediately explained it to him. Only then did he know that the chain that he had seen countless times had such a great deal of attention. The person who imprisoned the five-clawed golden dragon back then really took a lot of effort. Tang Zhang looked at the 5 chains and couldn't help but feel a little jealous. If these chains were used to refine magic weapons, the level of the magic weapons would definitely not be low. The 9 serenities dark iron has a remarkable characteristic, and that is, it can stretch and shrink freely. This chain has been integrated with the formation. As long as I move my mind, the chain will shrink. Do you think your dragon claws can withstand it? The five-clawed golden dragon was silent. Even if your dragon claws have rough skin and thick flesh and won't be broken, after a long time, your blood and qi won't be able to flow. I'm afraid it will be crippled. Even if you regain your freedom in the future, if your dragon claws are crippled, how much strength do you think you will have left? Tang Zhang's words poked at the five-clawed golden dragon's weak spot. In the future, it would definitely want to return to the dragon clan. If its dragon claws were destroyed, its strength would plummet, and there would be no possibility of recovery. Then it would become the weakest at the bottom. In the world of the dragon clan, where the strong preyed on the weak, it would be trampled on at will. That kind of life would be even more terrifying than being imprisoned here. Just thinking about it made its heart tremble. It didn't dare to think more. The five-clawed golden dragon was still groaning in pain. Looking at the incomparably calm Tang Jing, it really wanted to tear him apart and swallow him into its stomach. Have you thought about it? I only used a little strength. If I use a little more strength, then your dragon claws will really be crippled. Tang Jing blatantly threatened. The Empyrean fairy couldn't help but envy Tang Jing. This kind of experience was something that ordinary people wouldn't even dare to dream of. It was really desirable to be able to threaten a dragon. The pain in the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes became more and more intense. Its body even twitched, and its proud head drooped down. Chapter 904. These 3 words were like the sound of nature, making the stone in Tang Jing's heart completely fall to the ground. The corner of his mouth hooked up a faint smile. Words are no guarantee. If one day you get out of trouble, wouldn't it be easy for you to go back on your words? Maybe you will even kill me. Tang Jing's words made the five-clawed golden dragon's heart tremble. He looked at him in disbelief. Could it be that he could read minds? He could even see through the deepest thoughts in his heart. Of course, Tang Jing could not read minds. It was just the most instinctive precaution. The five-clawed golden dragon was used to being arrogant. It was not as simple as just saying a few words to make it bow down. There must be a perfect plan. Then what do you want? The five-clawed golden dragon asked. Tang Jing was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, he looked at the Empyrean fairy and asked, "You should have a spell to control it, right?" The Empyrean fairy was slightly stunned and understood his thoughts. The five-clawed golden dragon also understood and flew into a rage. "You want to use a spell to control me?" Tang Jing shrugged and said, "I like to be a villain first, then a gentleman. I am always too weak in front of you. If there is no insurance, then it will be too late to regret it in the future. You can rest assured that as long as you sincerely submit to me, how can I harm you?" The five-clawed golden dragon was angry, his mouth spitting out dragon's breath. His eyes were uncertain. His plan had failed. Chew. He originally planned to feign civility and deal with Tang Jing after he got out of trouble in the future. He did not expect that he had already taken precautions. If he really let him use a spell to control it, then it would be seeking its own death if it had second thoughts. You. The five-clawed golden dragon was speechless. If he forcibly opposed, then wouldn't it mean that he had second thoughts? This was a confession without being pressed. But if he did not oppose, then he would have no chance to resist in the future. He was in a dilemma. The mysterious maiden of the 9 heavens understood its thoughts and was even more aware of Tang Jing's fear, so she added, "Of course I have this kind of spell, the soul imprint is the best way." "Oh, soul imprint." "Yes, the soul brand won't do any harm to it, but once you use it, its soul will be in danger. This is the only way to control it." Hearing the word soul brand, a trace of panic flashed through the five-clawed golden dragon's eyes. Of course, it knew the power of this spell. Apart from the caster, no one could undo this brand. Therefore, it had to respect Tang Jing as its master for all eternity. Tang Jing could destroy it with a single thought. It was simply heaven-defying. However, your cultivation is still weak. The soul brand can only succeed if it doesn't resist at all, the Empyrean fairy added. The 100-change star sovereign had also wanted to use the soul brand to control the five-clawed golden dragon. He could only succeed when the five-clawed golden dragon was at its weakest. On the other hand, Tang Jing's cultivation was too weak. If the five-clawed golden dragon had any thoughts of resistance, he would never succeed. Therefore, the Empyrean fairy added this point. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at the Empyrean fairy hatefully. It thought that this couple was too cunning. They had blocked all its escape routes. Tang Jing nodded and looked at the five-clawed golden dragon aggressively. "Have you thought about it?" The five-clawed golden dragon's eyes flashed with despair. At this point, there was no time for it to think, let alone refuse. It looked at Tang Zheng with hatred. Why didn't it think that things would come to this point? If it hadn't agreed to the 100 Change Star Sovereign's request and turned against Tang Zheng, it wouldn't have fallen into this desperate situation. All of this was its own fault. No, it was the 100 Change Star Sovereign's fault. It blamed all of its anger on the 100 Change Star Sovereign. It made up its mind that if it met him again in the future, it would definitely not let him have an easy time. I promise you, the five-clawed golden dragon said helplessly. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. There's no time to lose. Let's start now. This is the first step to building mutual trust. The five-clawed golden dragon couldn't object. The Empyrean fairy quickly passed on the soul brand technique to Tang Zheng. In fact, this technique was very simple. Tang Zheng didn't take long to learn it. Let's start. Tang Zheng looked at the five-clawed golden dragon. The five-clawed golden dragon lowered its head so deeply that its whiskers almost touched the ground. Tang Zheng stood in front of the huge dragon's head and stretched out his hands. His fingers moved and a complicated seal appeared. It turned into a mysterious light and entered the five-clawed golden dragon's head. The five-clawed golden dragon trembled and then released a golden light that wrapped around Tang Zheng. It was as if he had turned into a golden man. Roar! A dragon's roar came from the five-clawed golden dragon's mouth. At the same time, a dragon's roar also came from the dragon mark on Tang Zheng's forehead. However, this dragon roar could only be heard by him. The shrunken golden dragon and the dragon seal began to surge, as if it was riding the clouds. Its entire body was suffused with golden light, especially the dragon vein in the golden dragon, which was particularly eye-catching. The golden light was the brightest. This was the dragon vein that he had absorbed in Qin Shi Huang's tomb. It had fused with the 9th main meridian in his body and appeared in the little golden dragon's body. The little golden dragon's golden light flickered and slowly condensed under its abdomen. Not long after, it condensed the embryonic form of the 5th dragon claw and rapidly grew. Tang Zheng seemed to have understood something. His eyes were overflowing with color and he was overjoyed. The 5th layer of the dragon god's secret arts. He never thought that using the soul brand technique would have such a miraculous effect. The soul brand technique linked Tang Zheng and the five-clawed golden dragon together. Naturally, the five-clawed golden dragon would feed back to Tang Zheng and help him break through to the 5th layer of the dragon god's secret arts. Looking at the five-clawed golden dragon, Tang Zheng could clearly feel its power. Of course, although it also had 5 claws, it couldn't be compared to the five-clawed golden dragon in front of him. Tang Zheng didn't care. As long as he could reach the 5th layer and enter the 5th floor of the Langya Pavilion, it would be a great harvest for him. The little golden dragon slowly calmed down and the 5th claw was completely formed. The five-clawed golden dragon raised its head and the golden light on its body dimmed. Although its body didn't change and its strength wasn't damaged, it knew that a brand was left in the depths of its soul. From now on, it would never be able to resist Tang Zheng. It was a great shame to submit to a human, but it was powerless to resist. He's not human. He cultivated the dragon god's secret arts and even cultivated the dragon mark. He should be considered a member of the dragon clan. It finally remembered Tang Zheng's words and used it to comfort itself. It could be considered as soothing its wounded heart. However, when it completely fixed its gaze on Tang Zheng, it was obviously shocked and exclaimed, "You actually broke through again and reached the 5th layer of the dragon god's secret arts." Tang Zheng smiled faintly, "I have to thank you for this. Don't worry, I won't treat you unfairly. In the future, you will definitely be proud of today's decision." The five-clawed golden dragon snorted and didn't comment. Tang Zheng didn't care about its little mood and said, "Your problem is solved. Next, it's my problem." Tang Zheng looked at the space around him. The hall had been destroyed. Let's restore it to its original state. With a thought from Tang Jing, the surrounding space underwent a huge change. Stone walls were automatically built from all directions. Not long after, the hall was restored to its original state. He controlled this space, and all of this was done with a single thought. Although this space is still under the Imperial City, from now on, except for me, no one can find this space. He obviously wanted to hide this space. This time, the movement was so big that the dragon in the capital was no longer a secret. He was afraid that people from all walks of life would compete to find it. He naturally couldn't let these people succeed. Especially since there were officials and Azure Dragon Palace among these people, he had to be careful. Now, he couldn't help but be curious about how Tian Chanzi knew that there was a dragon under the Imperial City. This old man had a lot of secrets. However, he didn't intend to ask. Tian Chanzi definitely didn't have any malicious intentions towards him. He was still very confident about this. Although the Empyrean Fairy was curious about the Dragon Clan and wanted to know more about the five-clawed golden dragon, she didn't object when she heard this. From now on, you will obediently stay here. The original agreement is still valid. When my power reaches the requirements, I will naturally come and let you out. The five-clawed golden dragon didn't have any temper. However, he no longer doubted this sentence. It was already his dragon. The sooner he let it out, the better it would be for him. When Tang Zheng and the Empyrean Fairy appeared in the Imperial City, everyone immediately surrounded them. The dragon's roar just now made them feel uneasy. Number 1 looked at the two of them who were completely unharmed, and then recalled the 100 Transformation Star Lord who was in a sorry state earlier. He felt even more shocked, and no longer dared to look down on Tang Zheng. Where is the dragon? Number 1 couldn't help but ask first. This was the question he was most concerned about. Naturally, it was also the question the chief was most concerned about. The movement in the Imperial City had attracted the attention of all parties, including the chief's opponents. The impact was very bad. If they didn't seize the opportunity, it would definitely not be worth it. The movement in the Imperial City this time had become an excuse for their opponents to make trouble. The chief was in a terrible fix. Of course, if they found the dragon, all of this could be reversed. Tang Jing glanced at him lightly and didn't rush to deny it. Now that he had complete control of the dragon, and the dragon's secret couldn't be hidden, so he generously admitted, the dragon is in a very safe place. Number 1's face stiffened and his heart was bitter. Of course he knew it was in a very safe place, but they wanted the dragon. Where is it? Can we see it? Number 1 asked. No. This refusal made Number 1 unable to get angry. He could only look at him with pleading eyes and said, the chief wants to see it. Please tell him that this is impossible. Tang Jing still refused without hesitation. Number 1's face was very ugly, and the corner of his mouth twitched a few times. Under Tang Zheng's aggressive gaze, he finally didn't dare to say more. Tang Jing glanced at the others, and his eyes fell on Xiao Bai and Huang Xiang's arms. His eyes lit up and asked, what happened to it? It ate the Niden of Yamada no Orochi. Tian Chanzi said. Xiao Bai reluctantly opened its eyes and looked at Tang Zheng as a greeting. Then it closed its eyes and fell asleep. Tang Zheng held it and gently stroked its hair. He knew that it would transform. The Niden of Yamada no Orochi contained a lot of energy. If this little guy digested it, it would definitely benefit a lot.